that Tsundere goddess falls in love with me. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626, Going to ZHU's house. ZHU King Cheng's words confused Zhen Heng. No, what you just said is that the spiritual tree that supported the prosperity of the Hua family and even Hua Cheng was about to wither and die, and then Lu Chuan revived the spiritual tree by himself? Zhen Heng asked with a blank face, looking at the other party in disbelief. ZHU King Cheng nodded slightly. Yes, that's the fact. The people from the Hua family told me personally, and Zhen you should also know it. So, you should understand what kind of powerful abilities this young man named Lu Chuan has. Zhen Heng took a breath and looked back at Zhen Yu and asked in a serious tone, "Are you serious?" Zhen Yu nodded slightly. Every word he said is true. Lu Chuan did save the Hua family's spiritual tree. If it weren't for Lu Chuan's action, the Hua family would have slowly declined until it was destroyed. The people of the Hua family have almost no other skills except planting that large flower field. So, without the spiritual tree, they will only slowly decline. This is an indisputable fact. Zhen Heng looked at Zhen Yu in disbelief and confusion. To him, this matter was simply incomprehensible. What kind of means did he use? That kind of spiritual tree can be revived by one person? This is simply too fake. No one will believe it if you tell it to others. Zhen Yu nodded helplessly. Don't disbelieve it. I witnessed the process of this incident personally. Although I don't know how Lu Chuan revived the spiritual tree, he did it. In the Hua family in Hua Cheng, he is the most honored guest. No one dares to offend him. Yang Menghun, the daughter of the Lord of Hua Cheng, had a strange disease, and he cured it with his own hands. He can even easily solve the strange disease that Huling's divine doctor couldn't cure. I told you a long time ago that he is not an ordinary person. You don't believe it. There are so many people who say that he is not an ordinary person. Zhen Yu spread his hands helplessly. ZHU King Cheng looked at the conversation between the two and suddenly found it interesting. Why, Cheyenne Heng, do you think this person doesn't have this ability? Zhen Heng was stunned and didn't recover for a long time. Since both of you said so, I will believe it for once, he said reluctantly. ZHU King Cheng immediately became excited. I came here to see Lu Chuan. You should have no objection to me going to see him. After all, he is not from your Zhen family. Zhen Heng frowned and said helplessly, he is in the guest room. If you want to see him, go and see him. Okay, then I'll leave first. ZHU King Cheng walked out of the meeting hall with a happy step. Zhen Yu hurriedly walked up to Zhen Heng. Brother, they are here to rob people. Rob people? Rob that Lu Chuan? That's unnecessary. Why not? This Lu Chuan came to Xianshu City to clean up some forces. If these forces can really be cleaned up by him, the entire Xianshu City will usher in a huge turmoil, and all families may get opportunities in this turmoil. Zhen Heng still didn't understand. Who is he going to deal with? He is a young man with a very bad temper. Haha, you won't believe who he is going to deal with if I tell you. Then don't say anything. I'm upset. After Zhen Heng finished speaking, he walked out of the meeting hall directly, too lazy to talk to Zhen Yu anymore. Zhen Yu stood there and sighed a little tired. In the guest room, Lu Chuan and the others finished breakfast and prepared to go out to stretch their muscles. As soon as he arrived at the door, he saw ZHU King Cheng and his son coming outside. ZHU Zheng Jiang pointed at Lu Chuan and said, Dad, this is Lu Chuan. ZHU King Cheng smiled brightly and said, Mr. Lu is really handsome and a gentleman. He is a man of great potential, he said excitedly, and walked towards Lu Chuan. Who are you? Lu Chuan asked. He is my father, ZHU King Cheng, and he is also the most important person in the ZHU family, the head of the family. ZHU Zheng Jiang explained quickly. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Gu Xiaosang looked at the two men with a vigilant face. What do you want to do? Nothing. I just want to invite Mr. Lu to my house and have a chat. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. I'm not familiar with you. Actually, we are quite familiar with each other. Our ZHU family is an ally of the Hua family, and you are a noble of the Hua family. How can we say that we are not familiar with each other? Hearing this, Lu Chuan smiled slightly. I see. It seems that you know that I saved the Hua family? Yes, such a heroic feat is indeed not something that ordinary people can do. Lu Chuan put his hands on his hips and asked, just tell me, what exactly do you want to do with me? First of all, I definitely want to get to know someone capable who may be able to help our ZHU family in the future. Secondly, I heard that you can revive spiritual plants. I have collected a fine spiritual herb, and I hope you can help me with it. Lu Chuan thought for a moment. It seemed that there was no need to help. However, it was also possible that the two people from the ZHU family just wanted to test their abilities. Lu Chuan thought that he should not make too many enemies in Xianshu City, and it might be good if he could make friends with the ZHU family. However, the ZHU family were all shrewd businessmen, and they were afraid that if he really encountered a crisis, they would not dare to provide help for him. I'll pay you a visit when I have time. That is no problem. You are always welcome. Lu Chuan continued to ask, do you know the Lu family? ZHU King Cheng quickly looked up at Lu Chuan and asked, are you from the Lu family? No wonder you are so powerful. No, I'm just asking. I'm not from the Lu family, not for a long time. Oh, the Lu family is in the south of the city and doesn't run any business. They want to maintain the Lu family's influence in Kunlun domain. Therefore, if there are forces in the city that do not agree with the Lu family, they will be hit by them. Lu Chuan frowned slightly. Are these people so overbearing? They are quite overbearing. Once the Lu family wanted to offer a reward for several enemies in Xianshu City, a family secretly sheltered one of them. As a result, within 3 days, the entire family was completely destroyed. Since then, no one in Xianshu City dared to disobey the Lu family's will. However, as long as they cooperate with them, they will not make excessive demands. So most of the time, we treat the Lu family as a transparent existence, and generally don't care about them, unless we provoke them. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. It's equivalent to the Lu family in Xianshu City being a thug and a surveillance camera of their family headquarters. The Lu family is really overbearing. They think they are the emperor and their hands are so long. Lu Chuan looked at ZHU King Cheng. From now on, you don't have to care about the faces of these people anymore. Chapter 627 Meddlesome. ZHU King Cheng was confused by Lu Chuan's words and asked quickly, what do you mean? I don't quite understand. What is the strength of the Lu family in Xianshu City? ZHU King Cheng pondered for a moment and said, when they took action before, the strongest was at the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm. This strength is considered the top powerhouse in Xianshu City. Even among the Zhen family, who are the supreme martial artists, there are not many people who can reach this level of strength. Of course, the reason why they can be so arrogant is that many families dare not provoke the overlord behind them. Otherwise, the several major families in Xianshu City will attack together to encircle and suppress us. It may be a tough battle, but we will definitely win. But after winning, in the eyes of the Lu family, this is like a rebellion, and they will send heavy troops into the city to clean us up. He looked at Lu Chuan, and then said, so you understand, the Lu family is very strong. The strongest is at the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm, which is indeed pretty good. It seems a bit tricky. Lu Chuan turned to look at Gu Xiaorao. Otherwise, go after you complete the breakthrough. This guy is obviously stronger than Lu Xianming. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. That's what I was thinking. ZHU King Cheng seemed to sense something was wrong and asked hurriedly, what do you mean? Are you going to deal with them? It's none of your business. Go back. I'll visit your ZHU family when I have time. ZHU King Cheng took a deep breath, turned around and walked out of the yard. When he reached the door, ZHU Zheng Jiang hurriedly asked, Dad, what this guy said just now seems to mean that he really wants to deal with the Lu family. Impossible, unless he is crazy. Otherwise, if he dares to cause trouble for the Lu family, he is looking for death. ZHU King Cheng said decisively. This guy's not an ordinary man. He might really have the courage. Haha, if he really dares to go, he will really dare to die. If he dares to touch the Lu family, he will definitely die. This person is not ordinary. He looks so confident. It seems that he is really not joking. ZHU King Cheng felt a little uneasy. There will not be a big turmoil in Xianshu City. In the yard, Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan and asked, "Didn't you take a Xianyuan pill? It is said that it can help break through the realm. When do you plan to use it?" "No, wait. I will start to break through tonight. But the Xianyuan pill can only help break through. I have very little spiritual energy myself, and I need to get a spiritual energy pill." At this time, Zhan Xianyu walked over and walked towards Lu Chuan. "The ZHU family's father and son have come here, right?" Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "They just left and said they wanted to invite me to their home for a visit. When do you plan to go?" "No plans for the time being. I have my own things to do. By the way, does your family have any elixirs containing spiritual energy? I need one to help me break through tonight." Although absorbing the spiritual energy from the branches of the sacred tree can also help Lu Chuan break through, if a spiritual energy pill is added to assist, the effect will be greatly improved. Zhan Xianyu hurriedly said, "Of course we have this, and it is a spiritual pill of extremely high quality. However, I can't give you something from my family without permission. Not to mention this kind of top level elixir. Lu Chuan, how about this? I'll take you to see my father. He can decide everything about the Zhen family. If he is willing to give you the spiritual pills treasured by the Zhen family, then it's basically stable. The key is, I don't know your father. How could he give me something casually?" Lu Chuan asked. "My father is seriously ill and paralyzed in bed. Only his head can move. If you can cure his illness, then there is no doubt that this life-saving grace is definitely worth a bottle of elixir." Lu Chuan heard this and nodded slightly. "You can try it. Although I'm not a professional doctor, I still go and take a look." "No problem." Lu Chuan followed Zhan Xianyu and walked in the courtyard of the Zhen family. If Lu Chuan wants to find a spiritual energy pill for breakthrough now, it is best to come to this kind of martial arts family. They will treasure a batch of top-level spiritual energy pills for martial artists who are about to break through. And this Zhen family is also the top martial arts family in Xianshu City. The elixir they treasure in their family is definitely top grade. Soon, Lu Chuan followed Zhan Xianyu to his father's room. In the antique room, there were servants boiling medicinal materials in the kitchen. As soon as you enter the room, you can smell the bitter smell of medicine. "Come, right here." Zhan Xianyu led Lu Chuan into the room. As soon as they opened the door, they saw a group of people standing here, surrounding the bed. Seeing this, Zhan Xianyu asked curiously, "Everyone, why are you all gathered here?" Zhan Xianheng looked back and said, "Third brother, Jiao Jiao invited a miracle doctor to treat father's illness. The effect is very good. Come and have a look." Zhan Xianyu hurried forward after hearing this. In front of the bed, a hunched and thin figure was holding a stick of incense and lingering in front of the bed, with a faint fragrance lingering around. Then, they were surprised to see that Zhengiliu, who was lying on the bed, suddenly raised his left hand and waved it twice in the air. Seeing this, everyone in the Zhen family laughed excitedly. "Great-grandpa's body is saved." Zhan Jiao shouted excitedly. Zhan Xianheng looked back at Zhan Xianyu and said, "Our father is saved. He will be able to stand up again." Zhan Xianyu forced a smile. Although he was happy in his heart, he still felt a little embarrassed that Lu Chuan was disappointed. At this time, Zhan Xianheng's eyes were on Lu Chuan. "Hey, what are you doing here?" His tone was very cold, obviously speaking to an outsider. "I'm here to treat your father," Lu Chuan said calmly. "You don't need to mind your own business. My father's illness is being cured by a master. You should go back." Zhan Xianyu hurriedly said, "Brother, don't say that. He is also kind-hearted." "Kindness? Not necessarily. If it's not for something, would he have nothing to do and come to help?" Zhan Xianheng smiled coldly, then turned his head and continued to look at Zhengiliu on the bed. Zhan Xianyu turned his head to look at Lu Chuan and smiled apologetically. "I'm really sorry. I didn't expect this to happen." Lu Chuan smiled calmly. "Since your father is fine, I'll go back." At this time, the thin old man in a grey robe sitting in front of the bed said loudly, "Stray people should stay away consciously and don't affect my medical practice." Zhan Jiao looked back at Lu Chuan. "Did you hear that? The master is taking care of you. What's wrong with you?" Zhan Xianheng added, Xianyu, take him out, and don't come in again. Although Zhan Xianyu was angry, they were outnumbered, and he didn't dare to say anything. Lu Chuan, I'm really sorry, I'll take you out. Lu Chuan turned around, and prepared to leave here, too lazy to bother with these people. But the next moment, the bronze sword on his back began to tremble violently. Chapter 628, Charlatan. Obviously, everyone in the Zhan family is very xenophobic, and has no good intentions towards Lu Chuan. Not long after he entered the house, several people in the Zhan family hurriedly wanted to drive him out. Zhan Xianyu was very helpless. He was the third child in the Zhan family, and had a lot of say, but when facing his eldest brother, his say was completely lost. He could only do what his eldest brother said. The Zhan family is not only very xenophobic, but also has a very strict division of generations. As the third child, Zhan Xianyu could not refute Zhan Xianheng, and could only persuade him patiently. But in the current situation, it seems that this is not possible. At least, it will take Zhan Xianyu's turn to come, after they are done. Zhan Xianyu looked back at Zhan Giliu. The old father's body had long been in decline. In his early years, he fought and killed, and he was injured a lot. The accumulated hidden diseases broke out completely in his later years. Everyone in the Zhan family hoped to cure Zhan Giliu's injuries, but no matter what kind of miracle doctor they invited, it was useless. Now that they could see Zhan Giliu's arm moving again, everyone in the Zhan family was extremely excited. As for the mysterious doctor, invited by Zhan Jiao, most people were too lazy to ask about it. After all, they had all witnessed the effect. So, in their eyes, this hunchbacked old doctor was definitely a real talent. Zhan Xianyu looked at Lu Chuan. Let's come back later. Come back later? No need. I think after this guy's operation, your father will be able to stand up again. Hearing this, Zhan Xianyu was a little surprised and asked, are you so sure that he will succeed? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. I'm very sure that he will succeed in making your father stand up. Zhan Xianyu hurriedly pulled Lu Chuan out of the room and asked in a low voice, how did you know? I don't think that guy is a serious doctor. I thought he was here to swindle. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. You are right. This guy is indeed here to swindle. Ah. But you just said that he can make my father stand up again, so it should be correct. Lu Chuan continued. Of course it's right. I can be sure that he can make your father's body stand up. As for whether your father himself can stand up, that's hard to say. Zhan Xianyu frowned. His face became gloomy. Mr. Lu, just explain what you mean. What is the situation? Does this guy really have the ability? I'll tell you straight. This guy's going to release the evil spirit to invade your father's body. When the evil spirit takes over your father's body, he will naturally be able to stand up. But by then, your father may die, and his body will just become a puppet of the evil spirit. Hearing this, Zhan Xianyu took a breath of cold air and said in a deep voice, are you sure about this? Absolutely true. That guy just released the evil spirit, and your father Zhan Giliu is in the process of being possessed by the evil spirit. Zhan Xianyu panicked and hurriedly paced back and forth on the spot, his face becoming heavy. In that case, let's just rush in and expose his lies. We can't let him do whatever he wants to my father. Zhan Xianyu said anxiously. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. Your eldest brother seems to dislike me very much. I may not even be able to get through this door. No, we can just explain it. Lu Chuan sneered. Explain? Did you explain it clearly? Come in and try it. It's better than doing nothing. Zhan Xianyu quickly opened the door and walked in. Zhan Xianheng looked back at Zhan Xianyu and said, look, third brother, our father can already sit up. Isn't it amazing? Zhan Xianyu hurried forward and saw that Zhan Giliu had indeed sat up, but his eyes were dull and his expression was stiff, which looked very strange. This is definitely not normal. As Lu Chuan said, this guy released the so-called evil spirit and invaded his father's body. Now, perhaps the evil spirit is still in the process of entering the body. If it cannot be stopped in time, it will be completely finished. Brother, this is a fraud. This guy is a charlatan. He used a cheap trick to make our father sit up. We can't believe him. He is deceiving us. Hearing this, the hunchbacked old doctor looked back at Zanshaya and said coldly, "I saved your patriarch, and you treat me like this? I'm the benefactor of your family. Is this how you treat your benefactor?" His tone was full of accusations, and he directly pointed the spearhead at Zanshaya without any intention of explaining or defending. Hearing this, Zanjio got angry and quickly scolded, "Uncle San, why do you say that? He is not a charlatan. He saved Grandpa, and he is the benefactor of our family." Zanshian raised his hand and put it on Zanshian's shoulder. "Third brother, you should go out and don't stay here." "Brother, don't you believe me?" "Why should I believe it?" He made our father sit up and move his arms. "I haven't seen our father move his body for many years. You should go out and don't make trouble here." Zanshian's eyes were slightly disappointed, as if he was angry at what Zanshian did. Zanshian sighed helplessly and turned to leave. At this time, the old doctor sitting there hurriedly shouted, "Let him apologize to me." Zanshian paused, stood where he was, and suddenly turned back and pointed at the old doctor. "You want me to apologize to you? You deserve it." The old doctor was shocked and looked at Zanshian and asked, "Is this the attitude of your Zan family? It really makes me feel disappointed. In this case, I will take my leave and we will not have any contact in the future." As he said this, he was about to get up and leave. Zanshian was anxious and quickly held his shoulders and asked him to sit back in his original position. "Don't worry, my third brother has a bad temper. You should be more understanding, and his attitude cannot represent the entire Zan family. You are the benefactor of our Zan family, there is no doubt about that." After comforting the old doctor, Zanshian looked at Zanshian and scolded, "Third brother, apologize to him and say sorry. It's over after you say it. You should do what you should do. I don't want to make things too ugly." Zanshian looked directly at Zanshian and asked in disbelief, "You want me to apologize to him? Is there a problem? The person he saved is your father, also my father, and the head of our Zan family. You dare to insult him like this? Don't you need to apologize?" Zanshian took a deep breath. He really wanted to swing his fist and hit this man in the face. But he knew that he couldn't do this. If he really did this, the 7 or 8 members of the Zan family present would not forgive him. When he felt helpless, he looked back at Luchuan. It seemed that he could only ask Luchuan for help again. Chapter 629 You are killing him. Zanshian looked back at Luchuan outside the door. This scene happened to be captured by Zanshian. He hurriedly asked, "What's the situation? Did he instigate you to come in and make trouble?" Zanshian hurriedly explained, "Absolutely not, but he did see some clues." "Okay. It's really this kid. He has to make our family restless before he can feel at ease." After he finished speaking, he walked quickly towards the door. Zanjio hurriedly shouted, "Uncle, teach him a lesson. This guy's too arrogant." Zanshian came to the door and stood in front of Luchuan. "You let my brother come in to make trouble, right?" Luchuan looked at the angry Zanshian and could only sigh helplessly. "Yes, I told him that the doctor was a liar." "Why do you say that? Let me go in and say a few words to him." Zanshian patted Luchuan on the shoulder. "No problem, but if you dare to say anything, don't blame me for being rude. Come in." He led the way into the room. Everyone in the Zan family looked at Luchuan as if they were looking at an enemy. Zanjio put her hands on her hips and stared at Luchuan. "You shouldn't have been allowed to live here." At this time, the old doctor stood up, looked at Luchuan, and smiled smugly. "You are the one who dares to question my medical skills, right? You are so brave. I wonder who you are. You have such courage. Can you see the mystery in my medical skills? You, an outsider, are you qualified to stand in front of me and shout?" He said coldly, raised his hand to touch the mustache on his chin, and looked up and down at Luchuan. Luchuan was too lazy to talk too much nonsense with this guy. He had wasted too much time here. He said directly, "You released the evil spirit and invaded Zangiliu's body, which made him barely sit up, but in fact, you are killing him." After these words came out, the old doctor froze and frowned slightly. He was shocked. He didn't expect that this young junior could actually see through his tricks. This guy's really not simple. He was a little panicked, but he had been in the martial arts world for decades. so he would not lose his composure in front of a young man. Ha 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 ha, you are really good at joking. You can make up such a story. It's really funny. He laughed coldly. Then, Zhan Xianheng glared at Lu Chuan. You are still slandering the master. Why don't you apologize? You two, apologize together. Zhan Xianheng shouted angrily. Zhan Jiao echoed on the side. That's right. You all have to apologize. You offended the master, so you should apologize. At this time, Lu Chuan pulled out the bronze sword behind him. The moment he held the long sword, Zhan Xianheng immediately became alert. What do you want to do? If you dare to do it here, you will die, he said angrily. Lu Chuan looked at the sword body. While the sword body was trembling slightly, it was also surrounded by a faint glow. Although it was an ordinary bronze sword, all these strange phenomena showed that this sword was very unusual. Then, Lu Chuan looked at Zhan Xianheng and explained, I can expel the evil spirit in your father's body and help him repair the damage in his body. Hearing this, the old doctor sneered. He was very confident that once the evil spirit entered the body, it was almost impossible to get rid of it. He was absolutely sure that Lu Chuan was bluffing and was definitely trying to scare him. Zhan Xianheng looked at Lu Chuan seriously. I won't pursue the truth or falsehood for now. How do you plan to exorcise this so-called evil spirit? If you dare to fool us, I will never forgive you. Lu Chuan turned to look at Zhan Xianheng and said, it's difficult for me to deal with your brother's attitude. Zhan Xianheng hurriedly stepped forward, stood beside Lu Chuan, and said nervously, don't bother with him. He is like this. He has a cold and explosive temper, and will not easily agree with others. Just do it, I believe in you. Zhan Xianheng hurriedly scolded, third brother, what do you mean by this? Zhan Xianheng hurriedly said, brother, let him try. If anything happens, I will be responsible. Can you take the responsibility? Zhan Xianheng said solemnly, please give me this chance, and believe Lu Chuan once. He can definitely do it. After Zhan Xianheng pondered for a moment, he said, then give him 3 minutes. If he doesn't see any improvement, I will think that he has deceived me. Zhan Jiao said unhappily, uncle, why should we let him do it again? What if he takes the credit? When grandpa gets better, he says it's his credit. How can we count it? Don't say so much. I will be watching from the side and won't let him do anything. I'm giving face to my third brother. Since he has made such a promise, I will definitely not let him down. Zhan Xianheng was relieved. It seemed that his elder brother would still remember the old friendship and give him a chance. Then, he set his sights on Lu Chuan. Next, it depended on how Lu Chuan would operate. Zhan Xianheng's heart began to get nervous. Lu Chuan walked to the bed and looked at Zhengiliu on the bed carefully. The old doctor standing by felt uneasy, but after paying attention to Lu Chuan for a while, he breathed a sigh of relief. This guy obviously couldn't see the existence of evil spirits. But then, Lu Chuan opened his immortal golden pupils. His pupils turned dark gold, his eyes were bright, and he once again looked at Zhengiliu on the bed seriously. The next moment, Lu Chuan saw a hunched black shadow hiding behind Zhengiliu, looking at Lu Chuan timidly. I found you. The next moment, Lu Chuan took out the bronze sword. This black shadow had already merged halfway with Zhengiliu. If he rashly used the immortal golden pupils to kill this evil spirit, it would easily cause harm to himself. Therefore, Lu Chuan still had to use the bronze sword to pull the evil spirit out of Zhengiliu's body first. Just as Lu Chuan picked up the long sword and pointed it at the black shadow retreated again and again, surrounding Zhengiliu's body and hiding in a direction away from Lu Chuan. I found you. Get out of here, Lu Chuan said coldly. Seeing this, the old doctor immediately realized that something was wrong and his face became ugly. The next moment, Lu Chuan suddenly stabbed out the long sword and stabbed it fiercely behind Zhengiliu. At this moment, Zhan Xianheng panicked and quickly shouted, what are you doing? Are you crazy? How dare you draw your sword against my father? I won't let you go. Swish. The next moment, the sharp sword in Lu Chuan's hand brushed past Zhengiliu's body and stabbed behind him. In the eyes of others, Lu Chuan's sword was completely in vain. However, Lu Chuan saw very clearly that his bronze sword had penetrated the evil spirit's body, through the evil spirit's chest, and penetrated through The next moment, the evil spirit was burned by the bronze sword and let out a piercing whine. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 630, Not Long to Live. Lu Chuan stabbed into the air with his sword. In Zhen Qianheng's opinion, Lu Chuan was attempting murder and accidentally made a mistake. You bastard, you actually wanted to kill my father. I won't forgive you. He rushed forward and stretched out his hands to Lu Chuan. Zhen Qianheng, have you forgotten what you just said? You said give me 3 minutes. Zhen Qianheng suddenly froze in place, frightened by Lu Chuan's sudden burst of momentum. 3 minutes haven't ended yet. Why are you in a hurry? The rest of the Zhen family couldn't stand it at this moment. You should leave here quickly. Your sword almost stabbed our family master. We will treat it as a long sword that you accidentally stabbed, and we won't hold you responsible. But there is no chance. You should leave our family master's life. You don't have to worry about it. I think you are attempting murder. You must have been instructed by someone to attack our family master. The noisy voices around gradually became harsh. Lu Chuan frowned, feeling very unhappy. But at this moment, a piercing whine suddenly appeared, causing everyone present to cover their ears. What's the noise? What happened? Zhen Qianheng hurriedly covered his ears and asked in panic. Zhen Qianheng looked at Lu Chuan with a look of surprise on his face. Lu Chuan, did you do it? Lu Chuan nodded slightly, and amid the violent whine, a stream of black smoke evaporated from Zhen Giliu's body and lingered in the entire room. Seeing this, everyone present was surprised. What is going on? Where did the black smoke come from? What happened to the master of the family? Lu Chuan, what did you do? At this time, the old doctor standing aside had a very ugly face, with gloomy eyes, looking down at the ground, not daring to look up, and looked directly at Zhen Qianheng. Zhen Qianheng took a deep breath, and the strange phenomenon that had just erupted made him feel very strange. He walked towards Lu Chuan. What's going on? Where did this scream and this black smoke come from? Lu Chuan looked back at Zhen Qianheng and said, this is the so-called evil spirit. They are spirits that wander between heaven and earth and are full of resentment. These evil spirits can parasitize on people and occupy the host's body after the host dies. So, your father is not physically healed, but is controlled by the evil spirit and turned into a puppet. If you don't take action in time, although he can stand up, he is no longer your father. Hearing this, Zhen Qianheng suddenly realized that, if Lu Chuan was a little slower, his father would be dead and replaced by a certain evil spirit. If it weren't for Lu Chuan, he would have to call a strange evil spirit dad in the future. This kind of thing, just thinking about it is extremely scary. Zhen Giliu fell back on the bed with a plop. At this time, he reacted and kept making weak wails from his mouth. Ouch. Ouch. After hearing this sound, Zhen Qianheng panicked, knelt down in front of the bed, and whispered, Dad, are you okay? At this moment, he finally realized that Zhen Giliu's condition was very wrong. His whole body was stiff, his expression was dull, and he couldn't say a word. Although his body could move, he looked like he was about to die. I'm dying soon. Qianheng, you will take over the Zhen family in the future. Dad, you can't say that. You are only in your 60s. It's not a problem to live another 30 years. Originally, I could live a few more years lying in bed. But after all the tossing and turning just now, I'm afraid. I'm dying soon. I'm afraid I can't even make it tonight. Hearing this, Zhen Qianheng's face suddenly showed anger. He stood up suddenly and glared at the old doctor. You treacherous villain. You actually harmed my father? The old doctor hurriedly stepped back and explained in a panic. Master Zhan, I'm doing my best to help your father treat his illness. You can't listen to this man's one-sided words. What he said is all false. He used a sleight of hand to negate all the medical skills I just displayed. He pointed at Lu Chuan and even wanted to accuse Lu Chuan again, aiming all the spearheads at Lu Chuan. Do you think I'm a fool? He stepped forward and grabbed the old doctor's neck with one hand. Master, I really am treating the master of the family. I'm kind-hearted, and I'm a good person. He cried and begged. Bullshit. Then, Zhan Xianheng punched the old doctor in the face. With a click, his face was sunken and his head was smashed like a watermelon. Then, Zhan Xianheng threw the body away with a casual flick of his hand. It's so unlucky to run into this kind of guy. Zhan Jiao panicked and quickly explained, Uncle, I didn't know he was this kind of person. I definitely didn't bring him here on purpose to harm Grandpa. Where did you find this guy? From the street. Zhan Jiao said, lowering her head in shame. In the future, don't get to know people of questionable character on the street. Zhan Xianheng looked at her with a look of disappointment, sighed helplessly, and turned to look at Lu Chuan. This time, he didn't have the cold and arrogant attitude just now, but showed a humble smile. Mr. Lu, I was confused just now, and said some bad things to you. Please don't take it to heart, it was all my nonsense. You just said that you can help my father cure his illness. Now I'm bothering you to save a life. As he said this, he bowed to Lu Chuan. Seeing this, the rest of the Zhen family didn't dare to underestimate Lu Chuan anymore. Lu Chuan looked at Zhan Xianheng, and naturally he wouldn't agree easily in his heart. This guy's attitude just now made him very uncomfortable. Therefore, Lu Chuan decided to stop here and there was no need to take the next step. I can help your father to exorcise the evil spirit, which is already the most I can do. As for the damage to his body, you can deal with it yourself. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not a member of your Zhen family. After saying that, Lu Chuan turned around and left the room. Looking at Lu Chuan's back, Zhan Xianheng was stunned. He quickly looked at Zhan Xianyu. He is not going to take action? Zhan Xianyu nodded helplessly. It seems so. Our father can't survive tonight. If he has the ability to save people, let him use it. Zhan Xianheng said anxiously. Zhan Xianyu sighed helplessly. Mr. Lu does have the ability to help my father repair his body. I have seen with my own eyes that after he was injured, he used some means to heal instantly, and even poisoned, he could easily resolve it. He can not only use it on himself, but also help others heal their bodies. And he himself said that he can help with this. However, you were so hostile to him just now, I'm afraid he won't help. Hearing this, Zhan Xianheng's face suddenly became full of worry. Today's tossing not only did not make Zhengiliu heal, but instead left him with only one day to live. This thing was done too cowardly. Since he wanted his father to live, Zhan Xianheng would have to pay some price, otherwise, Lu Chuan would never be able to help. Chapter 631 The Only Hope. In the room, Zhan Xianheng's face became extremely ugly. He paced back and forth in the room, looking at his old father on the bed from time to time, and his brows furrowed even more. After a long time, he sighed. You said, except for Lu Chuan, no one can really save our father? He looked at Zhan Xianyu with hope, hoping to get an extra answer. Zhan Xianyu sighed. Brother, there are countless strange people in Kunlun domain. If you really want to find one, you will definitely find a master who can bring our father back to life. But you have to know that we only have one day left. We haven't been able to find him in so many years. Can we find him in one day now? No matter what, there is only one way now. That is to find Lu Chuan and let him save our father. Otherwise, prepare for the funeral and notify the entire Zhen family, saying that our patriarch is going to die tonight, and be mentally prepared. Hearing this, Zhan Xianheng's heart sank. He seemed to know that he had no other way. It seems that we can only ask Lu Chuan for help. Zhan Xianyu shook his head slightly. It's not us, it's you. He is the person you found. Zhan Xianyu continued. Yes, I took a lot of effort to bring him to our Xianchu cities and family, but the person who offended him was not me. Do you understand? I have tried my best, the rest depends on you. Let me remind you that he has almost no opponents in this Xianchu city. His strength is definitely above mine. As for whether he is better than you, I don't know yet, but if you go to ask him, you can only be soft and beg him well. Zhan Xianheng's face was a little ugly. He was highly respected in the Zhen family. It was a bit embarrassing for him to lower his face and plead with a young junior from an outsider. However, his father's life and death was in his hands. If he took care of his old face now, it would be too treasonous and unfilial. Zanjiao stood up at this time, and the Zun family members behind him all looked very ugly at this moment, and lowered their heads with gloomy faces. Zanjiao stood up and shouted loudly, "Uncle, since I caused this matter, let me handle it, and I will ask him for mercy." After that, she walked towards the door. "Can you go?" Zanjiao shouted confidently. "Of course I can, leave it to me." Then, she walked out of the room, and walked towards the guest room in the Zun family mansion. At this time, Lu Yu had returned to the yard, and saw Guzayadora and Guzayada-sang sitting at the stone table in the yard, chatting. "How is it? Didn't you go to find the elixir for breaking through the realm? Did you get any results?" Lu Chuan sat down and said helplessly, "Don't mention it, the elixir was not found, and I got into trouble." "What's the situation? Did you offend the Zun family?" Guzayadora asked nervously. "That's not the case, but the head of the Zun family is seriously ill, and they asked a doctor to treat him." "Guess how the doctor treated the disease?" Guzayadora and Guzayada-sang both leaned forward curiously. "That bastard actually released the evil spirit, and wanted to possess the head of the Zun family to cure the disease. In this case, he not only helped the Zun family cure the head's serious illness, but also helped the evil spirit find a perfect host. This bastard, he is simply making money on both ends." Guzayadora said in surprise, "This guy's too dark. Is this method something a normal person can use? Then did you beat that guy up?" Guzayada-sang looked at Lu Chuan curiously. "I definitely can't do it on the spot, otherwise the people of the Zun family will find trouble with me. However, I did expose the lies of the charlatan, although there was some unpleasantness in the process. Now, the liar is dead, but the condition of the head of the Zun family is more serious. Probably, he won't survive tonight." Hearing this, Guzayadorao's face suddenly became solemn. The head of the Zun family is going to die tonight. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be dead. "What if there is an accident?" Guzayada-sang asked. "Then I will take action to cure his serious illness and save his life." Guzayadorao then asked, "Really? Are you going to help them?" Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. "That bastard Zun Qianheng has looked down on me time and time again, and thought I was here to make trouble. How could I help them? Forget it. I'm too lazy to take care of their affairs now. I'll see if I have time to visit the ZHU family. They are the richest people in Xianshu City. They must have elixirs that can be used." After Lu Chuan finished speaking, Guzayadorao nodded helplessly. "Then we can only go to them." Guzayada-sang smiled cheerfully. "I'm afraid you'll be in new trouble soon." "What?" Lu Chuan looked at her and asked. "The people of the Zun family will definitely find a way to come and beg you for mercy. I guess they will pester you relentlessly." Lu Chuan sneered. "Then I will tell them to get out. If they dare to pester me, we will move out and not live here anymore." Guzayada-sang heard this and shouted proudly, "That's great. I don't want to live here for a long time. The people of the Zun family are very exclusive. It's very uncomfortable to live here." Just as the three were talking, a petite figure slowly walked in at the door. Zanjiao walked in very restrainedly, and her eyes were full of apology when she looked at Lu Chuan. Guzayada-sang looked at Lu Chuan and said, "Look, people are here. It's just as I said." Lu Chuan looked back at Zanjiao. Seeing her restrained and nervous look, he knew what she was here for. Lu Chuan cursed in his heart. This bastard Zun Qianheng is really not a man. He actually let a little girl come forward. Is his face so precious? Zanjiao walked over, stood in front of Lu Chuan, and smiled awkwardly. "Mr. Lu, are you angry?" Lu Chuan spread his hands and said, "No, how could I be angry? Even if I want to be angry, there is no need to be angry with you. I don't care what you think of me." Zanjiao swallowed nervously and said, "I'll be frank. I'm really sorry for what happened just now. We did something wrong. I formally apologize to you now. Mr. Lu, I beg you to save my grandfather. He is dying now, and will definitely not survive tonight." As she said this, tears welled up in her eyes. Lu Chuan didn't care at all. "Well, I know, but I don't have this idea. Please go back." Zanjiao panicked instantly. "You can do whatever you want me to do. I will kneel down for you, kowtow to you, and even be your concubine. I can do anything, as long as you are willing." Chapter 632 Arrogance. Zanjiao's shocking words made Guzayada-sang unable to sit still. What did you just say? You can be his concubine? Gu Xiaosang stood up and looked at the man in front of him with a puzzled look. What's the problem? I'm the daughter of the Zhen family. Isn't it a bargain for him to marry him? I'm exchanging myself for my grandfather's health. Is there a problem with this? Zhang Jiao said confidently, as if she didn't realize there was anything wrong with her words. Gu Xiaosang immediately put his hands on his hips and said angrily, "You are so brave to say such things in front of my sister." Zhang Jiao said naturally, "Your sister? Who is your sister? What does my affairs have to do with her?" Gu Xiaosang said angrily, "Of course it is related. My sister is Lu Chuan's fiancée. Tell me if it is related." Upon hearing this, Zhang Jiao quickly turned her head and looked at Gu Xiaorao. "You two are already engaged?" Gu Xiaorao was more indifferent and said casually, "Yes, we have been engaged for a long time. Do you have a problem?" "No, but it's just an engagement. It's not certain whether it will work in the end." After that, she curled her lips and smiled, which was completely a curse on Gu Xiaorao. Gu Xiaosang was naturally unhappy and shouted angrily, "What did you say? You bastard, you have bad intentions." Zhang Jiao scolded, "How do I have bad intentions? I'm telling the truth. Can you predict what the future will be like? It's not that I don't have any chances. At least, I'm more open than your sister. I still have a lot of advantages." She thinks that her figure and appearance are not bad. Although there is still a gap compared to Gu Xiaorao, she can see at a glance that Gu Xiaorao is a lady from a wealthy family. Such a well-behaved girl can easily lose control of her man. Seeing her so proud, Gu Xiaosang was too lazy to talk nonsense with her. He looked directly at Lu Chuan and said, "Master Lu, aren't you going to express your opinion?" Lu Chuan quickly stood up and glanced at Gu Xiaosang. "Don't be anxious. This is not a big deal." Then, Lu Chuan looked at Zhang Jiao. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't care about any of the conditions you just mentioned. By the way, let me explain it to you directly. It's useless for you to come. Let Zhan Xianheng from your Zhen family come here in person." Zhang Jiao folded her arms across her chest and looked at Lu Chuan disapprovingly. "He is not free now, and isn't it enough that I apologize to you? Don't you know what status my uncle has in Xianshu City? In the entire Xianshu City, no one dares to ask him to apologize. So, my apology to you is already a way for our Zhen family to give you a way out. Do you understand?" she said with a little pride. Obviously, the huge Zhen family gave her strong confidence, allowing her to stand in front of Lu Chuan without fear. Lu Chuan didn't have the patience to waste time with her. He glared at Zhang Jiao. "Let Zhan Xianheng roll over here. If he dares not to come over, let him watch his own father die." Zhang Jiao was frightened by Lu Chuan's words. She quickly stepped back and pointed at Lu Chuan with a surprised look on her face. You just said, let my uncle roll over? Are you crazy?" "Yes, I just asked Zhan Xianheng to roll over here. I was just too lazy to pay attention to this guy. Now, you dare to provoke me like this? Now, let him roll over here. I must teach him a lesson." Zhang Jiao was so scared that she stood there in a daze. For a while, she didn't even know what to say. Lu Chuan's words even broke her inherent cognition. In her eyes, Uncle Zhan Xianheng's status in Xianshu City is supreme. No one dares to offend him. When all the big guys see him, they have to greet him respectfully. Such a top figure is now being taught a lesson by a young man so arrogantly. This is really too exaggerated. You are crazy. Believe it or not, if I tell my uncle what you just said, you will be dead. Lu Chuan glared at her. "At this point, you still dare to be arrogant in front of me? You messed up everything, and you are still so proud. I think you are courting death. You don't know how to be kind. I came here to apologize to you, but you don't know what's good for you, and dare to shout like this. We are of the same generation. There is no problem with me apologizing to you. You are simply pushing it too far." In Zhang Jiao's eyes, she had already made the biggest concession. But Lu Chuan pressed on step by step and refused to give in. In her eyes, he looked like a rogue. Lu Chuan was so angry with this woman that he wanted to punch her. Gu Xiaorao quickly stood up, came to Lu Chuan, and comforted him. "Don't bother with this person, let her go. I'm too lazy to bother with her, but this bastard is too disgusting. Go and call Zhenxian Heng over. I want to talk to him. Lu Chuan was completely speechless. This Zhang Jiao was obviously the kind of spoiled young lady who had made wrong judgments about many things and always felt that she was the superior one. However, Lu Chuan felt that Zhenxian Heng was probably not much better, but he had to teach them a lesson. Otherwise, he really couldn't stand this Zhen family. Zhang Jiao turned around and walked out of the yard. When she left a sentence. Wait until I call my uncle over. This matter will be serious. I hope you can bear it. After that, she walked out. Lu Chuan smiled helplessly. What a lunatic. Is there anyone normal in this Zhen family? It seems that only Zhenxian Yu is still normal, and everyone else is too arrogant. Lu Chuan sighed. Gu Xiaorao comforted him. It's a common problem for big families. Arrogance is inevitable. Many people in small families are arrogant, not to mention this top family. I'm afraid that Zhenxian Heng will come later, and there will be another quarrel. Lu Chuan snorted coldly. If Zhenxian Heng dares to quarrel with me, his father will die tonight. Soon, Zhenxian Heng walked in hurriedly. He looked at Lu Chuan, and his face suddenly became dark and dusty, which was very ugly. He walked towards Lu Chuan with a forced smile on his face. Seeing this, Lu Chuan knew that this person was more aware of the current situation than Zhang Jiao just now. Mr. Lu, Zhang Jiao just came to visit. I didn't know how to behave and offended you guys. I'm really sorry. I came to visit because I want you to treat my father. He is now bedridden and I'm afraid he won't make it through tonight. My third brother said that you have the magic to bring him back to life. I hope you can help. If you want me to do it, you can give me a sincere apology and maybe I will change my mind. Zhenxian Heng was stunned for a moment, then asked, how do you want me to apologize? I don't care who you are or what position you hold. Now, kneel down and apologize. Chapter 633, Lower Your Posture. After Lu Chuan finished speaking, Zhenxian Heng's pupils suddenly dilated, and he looked at Lu Chuan in disbelief. What did you just say? Didn't you hear clearly? I told you to kneel down and apologize. Lu Chuan stared at Zhenxian Heng. You should know what you said and did and what your attitude towards me is, right? Do you think that if you come over and say a few nice words, I will change my mind? Wouldn't I really become a tool for you to use whenever you want? Zhenxian Heng took a deep breath and said, don't go too far. Who am I? How could I kneel down to you? I'm quite prestigious in Xianshu City. I'm a well-known figure in the entire city. Who doesn't know my name? Zhenxian Heng. You ask me to kneel down to a nobody. Isn't this a loss of face for me? Lu Chuan smiled coldly. I'm a nobody now, but I won't be one soon. Besides, why can't you kneel down to me? Are you precious? No matter how precious you are, can you be as precious as your own father's life? If you don't apologize, I won't save your father. Lu Chuan said it decisively, not giving Zhenxian Heng any chance. At this moment, Zhenxian Heng seemed to realize that he had no other way to go. Lu Chuan in front of him was determined to make him apologize like this. Although he was embarrassed, he had no choice for his father's life. Although he was very reluctant, he could only do it. He looked at Lu Chuan and took a deep breath. As long as I apologize to you, will you help my father treat his illness? You apologize first. Zhenxian Heng took a deep breath. In his life, he had never knelt down to anyone else except his father. This kind of thing made him a little embarrassed. However, for the safety of his father's life, he could only bend his knees with difficulty. Gradually, his tall body sank down, and his knees touched the ground. Seeing him kneeling down with an unyielding face, Lu Chuan's mood improved a little. I'm really ashamed. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that just now. It was really because I was too arrogant that I offended you. He looked at Lu Chuan sincerely, without any distractions at all. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. I'm asking you now, where is the most precious elixir in your family? Why are you asking this? Of course I need this elixir. Lu Chuan said naturally. Zhenxian Heng asked quickly, what do you mean? I've already knelt down for you, and you still want something? You knelt down just to apologize. I helped heal your father, don't I need a reward? You. Zhan Xianheng was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to say, but Lu Chuan's words seemed to make sense. He shook his head helplessly and sighed. Okay, no problem. The best elixir in our family is called the Earth Spirit Pill. The spiritual energy contained in it is quite amazing. Originally, I planned to use it to break through the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm, but since you want it, take it. He sighed helplessly. Although he was very reluctant, he could only give it up. After all, his father's life was more important. Take it out. Zhan Xianheng raised his trembling right hand, took out a small bottle from his arms, and handed it to Lu Chuan. Keep it, and use it when you need a breakthrough. It will help you achieve the breakthrough. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, and took the pill. Now, can you come with me? Lu Chuan stood up. No problem. Go and take a look. Zhan Xianheng exhaled, and the stone hanging in his heart was put down. In order to cure his father's illness, he believed that he had paid too much, kneeling down to apologize and offering a panacea. If the disease could not be cured, then he would really lose a lot, because he could not beat Lu Chuan, and if they fell out, it would be difficult to stop. He looked at Lu Chuan, still unable to understand why such a young person could be so powerful. Zhan Xianheng took the lead and walked towards the owner's residence. Soon, they came to the ward. Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang also followed. In the ward, everyone in the Zhan family was still guarding the bed. Zhan Giliu was now at risk of death at any time, and they had to hold on until the last moment. At this time, Zhan Xianheng walked in and brought Lu Chuan with him. Zhan Xianheng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Lu Chuan. Mr. Lu, you are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Now it all depends on you to take action. Zhan Xianheng looked at Zhan Xianheng and said, Brother, I knew you would lower yourself to invite him. For our father, everything is worth it. Zhan Xianheng's face was very ugly. He didn't want others to know that he had just knelt down. What's more, he also lost his most precious elixir. These two things added up to make him feel very uncomfortable. Mr. Lu, you take action. Zhan Xianheng looked at Lu Chuan and said. At this time, Gu Xiaosang came out. Wait, this Zhan Jiao just insulted my sister. I can't forgive her. Let her apologize. One wave has not settled, another wave rises. Zhan Xianheng frowned immediately. What's going on? Zhan Xianheng didn't dare to provoke Lu Chuan, but looked at Zhan Jiao and scolded. Apologize quickly. Uncle, I'm a member of the Zhan family. Why should I apologize to them? Zhan Xianheng heard this and became even more angry. If you don't apologize, you will be kicked out of the house. By then, you will not be a member of the Zhan family. After hearing this, Zhan Jiao stopped being stubborn and looked at Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang and bowed deeply. I'm sorry. Zhan Xianheng breathed a sigh of relief. If he had paid so much and still couldn't let Lu Chuan take action, then he would really lose a lot. So now, he must ensure that no accidents will happen. Zhan Xianheng looked at Lu Chuan with a smile on his face. Mr. Lu, please take action. The rest of the Zhan family were a little dissatisfied in their hearts. A young man who seemed to be inexperienced in the world. Why should the future head of the Zhan family be so humble? Then, Lu Chuan walked towards the bed. The next moment, Lu Chuan raised his right hand. Boom. A ball of fire suddenly appeared in the palm of his hand, and then everyone around was startled. Zhan Xianheng took 2 steps back and stared at Lu Chuan with wide eyes. What are you going to do? Why are you releasing the flame? The others also asked. Your palm is on fire. What are you doing? The head of the family is not dead yet. Do you want to cremate him so soon? What kind of healing method is this? It's even more outrageous than that charlatan. You can heal your whole body by burning it with fire. This is pure nonsense. Lu Chuan frowned and scolded. Shut up. If you keep talking nonsense, I will turn around and leave. Since you let me heal the disease, then shut up. Seeing this, Zhan Xianheng quickly shut his mouth and stopped talking nonsense. He was really worried that Lu Chuan would suddenly stop. Chapter 634. Recovering from a serious illness. The moment Lu Chuan showed the flame in his hand, all the members of the Zhan family present were very puzzled. In order to treat the physical illness of the head of the family, they actually had to release flames to treat it? They had 10,000 question marks in their hearts. but now they didn't dare to ask anything out loud, so they could only stand aside and look at Lu Chuan seriously. Although they were puzzled, the Zun family had spent a lot of effort to invite Lu Chuan over, so no matter what the result was, let him try it first. After all, this is the last hope. If Lu Chuan doesn't try it now, Zhengili will still die directly on the spot at night. Zhan Xianheng wiped the sweat from his forehead. He seemed to have noticed that the flame in Lu Chuan's palm was unusual. He began to murmur in his heart, can this ball of flame really cure his father's serious illness? No matter how you look at it, it doesn't seem likely. Only Zhan Xianheng was relieved. When he saw Lu Chuan use this ball of flame, he knew in his heart that this matter was already stable. At this time, Lu Chuan walked to the bed and stood in front of Zhengili. After taking a look at him, he saw that his eyes were closed, his face was as pale as wax, his cheeks were fleshless, and he was so thin that his bones were visible. He knew that he was about to die. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for much longer. Lu Chuan placed the Nine Heavens mysterious fire in front of Zhengili and pressed the fire into his body. Then, the Nine Heavens mysterious fire began to wander in every corner of his body, and all his internal organs, limbs and torso were burned. Lu Chuan frowned slightly. The head of the family has a lot of injuries. Various injuries and hidden diseases are all over his body. It seems that he was injured a lot when he was young. Zhan Xianheng nodded quickly. Yes, when my father was young, he helped the family to stabilize the country and fought with many people from many forces. He often recovered from his injuries after a fight and continued to fight when his injuries were healed. Over time, his body has fallen into such a serious hidden disease that even standing up in his later years is a difficult thing. As he said this, his face became ugly and his heart was extremely uncomfortable. Then, Lu Chuan began to use the Nine Heavens mysterious fire to repair the injuries in his body. Because he is old, the recovery process will not be too smooth. However, this old illness is not a big deal for Jiu Shanzu and Huo. Then, Zhengili's face regained a lot of vitality, his pale cheeks gradually became rosy, and his blood color became full. He opened his eyes slightly, and his originally dark eyes became bright. He exhaled a long breath, and couldn't help but sighed. Am I having a last burst of light? It seems that I'm really going to die soon, and I won't be able to hold on until the evening. He sighed. Lu Chuan then said, old man, raise your hand and try. Young man, what are you talking about? How can I raise my hand? He looked up at Lu Chuan. Try it. Then, Zhengili gritted his teeth and pulled his right hand out of the quilt with difficulty. He looked at his right arm in surprise, and it was actually raised straight up and hung in the air. Seeing this, Zhengili widened his eyes and looked at Lu Chuan in disbelief. I can lift my arm now. Zhan Xianheng stood aside with a surprised expression on his face. He never expected that Lu Chuan could actually do it. He invited countless miracle doctors to do something that Lu Chuan could not do, but he actually did it. Third brother, did you see it? Our father can lift his hand now. Zhan Xianheng pointed at Zhengili's arm excitedly. Zhan Xianheng nodded slightly and said with a smile, you should understand now. It took me a lot of effort to bring him back. Thanks to third brother, if you hadn't met Mr. Lu, my father would have really passed away. As he said this, he burst into tears and raised his hand to wipe the tears from the corners of his eyes. The rest of the Zun family members were looking at this scene in great surprise at this moment. In their eyes, this was a complete miracle. Lu Chuan was more indifferent. Old man, don't worry, wait until I have repaired all the hidden diseases in your body and you will be able to get out of bed and walk. Hearing this, Zhengili couldn't help but laugh. Are you serious? Is it possible for me to get out of bed and walk in my lifetime? Of course, but you need to wait a little longer. Zhengili, lying in bed, felt that his body was getting healthier and healthier. Not only could he control his limbs, but his muscle strength was also slowly recovering. As long as his muscles were fully recovered, he could stand up again. After about 3 minutes, Lu Chuan completely healed Zhengili's body. This process took a lot of energy. Lu Chuan had to control the Nine Heavens mysterious fire to accurately find the damaged area and complete the repair. If Zhengili didn't have too many hidden diseases, he would have been completely cured in an instant. The warmth in Zangiliu's body gradually weakened, and then he gritted his teeth and sat himself up. After sitting up straight, he laughed in surprise. Ha ha ha. I actually sat up. Everyone, get out of my way. I want to walk. Zan Xianheng was extremely surprised, but still walked forward with some worry. Dad, you should rest for a while and wait until you are fully recovered. It's too hasty to walk now. What are you talking about? I know my own body best. I feel my whole body is brand new now. He got out of bed and stood on the ground regardless of his family's obstruction. Because he hadn't walked for a long time, his walking posture was a little weird, but there was nothing else unusual. After walking again, Zangiliu laughed excitedly. I never thought that I would have this day. I thought I would spend the rest of my life in bed. He turned around and looked at Lu Chuan. Mr. Lu, I'm really grateful. You gave me a second life. You are the greatest benefactor of our Zan family. He walked forward and shook hands with Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan patted his shoulder and said, take good care of yourself in the future. Other things don't matter. I know. From now on, you should treat the Zan family as your own home. You can do whatever you want. If anyone makes you unhappy, just deal with him. He looked up at Zan Xianheng and said, Xianheng, I have remembered what you said to him just now. Dad, I didn't understand the situation when I said those words. Do you understand now? Why don't you apologize? Zan Xianheng said with embarrassment. I've already apologized. When? How did you apologize? Zan Xianheng pursed his lips and was a little embarrassed to speak. It would be more painful than killing him to ask him to say the fact that he had just knelt in front of so many people. Chapter 635 Breakthrough. Zan Xianheng looked around but didn't answer Zangiliu's words. Zangiliu looked at Lu Chuan and asked, how did he apologize to you just now? Just now, after he found me, his attitude was quite sincere. He knelt down to apologize to me. Lu Chuan said disapprovingly. As soon as this was said, everyone else present took a breath of cold air. Zan Jiao widened her eyes and looked at Zan Xianheng in disbelief. It was not something that ordinary people could do to make Zan Xianheng kneel down and apologize. Zan Xianheng turned his head to the side, and his face was obviously not very good. This time he really lost face. Xianheng, you are quite sensible, and apologize to them in time. Mr. Lu, you will be treated as a VIP in the Zan family from now on. If the Zan family does not treat you well, please tell me, and I will teach them a lesson. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Thank you very much, Patriarch. I should thank you. If you hadn't cured my illness, I'm afraid I wouldn't survive tonight. And Xianyu, you can bring him here, which is also a great achievement. Zangiliu looked at Zan Xianyu and smiled with satisfaction. Zan Xianyu bowed and said, this is what I should do. My father has just recovered from a serious illness. How about we have a celebratory dinner? Zan Xianheng said happily, with a bright smile on his face. Zangiliu nodded slightly and said, no problem. Let's have a family banquet. Let me see what the family situation is like now. Lu Chuan was a little embarrassed and said, I won't attend tonight. I have something to do tonight. Zangiliu felt very sorry for seeing this, but since Lu Chuan said so, he didn't try to persuade him too much. Although it's a pity, you still have to do your own things. In the evening, Lu Chuan returned to the guest room, and the Zan family was preparing for the grand banquet in the evening. Back in the room, Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang and said, you two, why don't you go to the banquet tonight and join in the fun? Gu Xiaorao shook her head slightly. I also want to meditate and practice tonight. I don't want my strength to improve too slowly, otherwise it will be too easy to become a burden. Lu Chuan nodded slightly and then looked at Gu Xiaosang. Although Gu Xiaosang loves to play and likes to join in the fun, she still decided to accompany Sister Xiaorao. I'll stay and practice well too, and not waste time. Lu Chuan then took out the branch of the sacred tree. Tonight is the time for me to break through. After I complete the breakthrough, I will go to the Lu family to settle accounts tomorrow. After saying that, he walked towards the bed. After lowering the curtain, Lu Chuan sat cross-legged on the bed and began to enter a state of meditation. Then, he put his spiritual consciousness deep into his body, began to circulate the spiritual energy in his body, and began to break through the realm. The branch of the sacred tree was placed aside, and the spiritual energy released filled the entire room. Lu Chuan began to absorb the spiritual energy released by the branches of the sacred tree fiercely. Guzaya and Guzaya Sang also stepped up to enter the state of practice, not to miss this excellent opportunity, and absorbed the spiritual energy emitted by the branches of the sacred tree together. Then, Lu Chuan took out the earth spirit pill, put it in his mouth, and it melted in his mouth. The pill turned into a stream of spiritual energy and flowed into the body, instantly filling his limbs and bones, making Lu Chuan's whole body full of spiritual energy. Then, he swallowed the Shianyuan pill again. When the absorption of spiritual energy reached its peak, the Shianyuan pill played a role, allowing Lu Chuan to complete the breakthrough of the realm. Boom. Lu Chuan's aura exploded, his forehead was covered with sweat, and his breathing became slightly heavy. Just now, with the help of the Shianyuan pill, he easily completed the breakthrough of the realm. The strength of the whole body has been comprehensively improved, and the muscle strength, body speed, and spiritual awareness have all been greatly enhanced. Lu Chuan couldn't help but sighed. With sufficient preparation, it's easy to break through. He opened his eyes. The branches of the sacred tree were still releasing spiritual energy, and Guzaya and Guzaya Sang were also constantly absorbing abundant spiritual energy. Lu Chuan didn't know whether the two of them could break through, but even if they did, they were only the second level of the Wuan realm. Compared with the direct disciples of the Zen family, they might still be able to fight, but compared with Zhen Xianyu and Zhen Xianheng, they were much worse. Lu Chuan got out of bed, moved his limbs, and felt refreshed. Seeing that Guzaya and Guzaya Sang were still meditating in the yard, he did not disturb them. He put away the branches of the sacred tree. The abundant spiritual energy in the house was enough for the two of them to absorb for a night. Lu Chuan came to the yard, stretched his body, and planned to continue practicing the extreme shadow flash. Just as he was preparing to move, a figure suddenly walked out of the yard and hurried towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan, do you have anything to do now? Zhan Xianyu walked in quickly. His face seemed a little ugly. Is there something you want to talk to me about? Zhan Xianyu stood in front of Lu Chuan and took a deep breath. Just now, the family servants saw this outside. After saying that, he took out a piece of yellow paper. This was a wanted order, and the portrait on the wanted order was exactly the appearance of Lu Chuan. Moreover, the reward amount was actually 100,000 taels of gold. This number is enough to make countless people crazy. If an ordinary person took 100,000 taels of gold, he could make a fortune. It is conceivable that, if this wanted order is released, many people will want to take advantage of Lu Chuan. This is the wanted order issued by the Lu family. It was posted by someone from the Lu mansion. I have asked the servants in the family to tear it up as much as possible, but they are still not as fast as them. Now many people in the city are spreading this wanted order like crazy. After all, the reward of 100,000 is too exaggerated for them. What should I do? He looked at Lu Chuan with a worried look. I haven't even found their door yet, but they still want to take the initiative. In this case, I naturally can't hold back on them. Within 3 days, the Lu family will disappear in Xianshu City. Zhan Xianyu smiled in surprise and asked in surprise, Are you really going to do this? Of course, they are about to come to my door to deal with me, so I will naturally not let them go. Lu Chuan and the Lu family in Kunlun Domain are complete enemies, and there is no situation of easing. So, it's either you die or I die. In this case, Lu Chuan will naturally not be soft. Try not to go out recently. Be careful of being targeted. Don't worry about it. I will go to the Lu family tomorrow morning. After Lu Chuan finished speaking, he turned back and walked towards the room. He went to bed early tonight and took action early tomorrow morning. Looking at Lu Chuan's back, Zhan Xianyu was extremely anxious. Confronting the Lu family was not what their Zen family wanted to see. However, this seemed to be an unavoidable situation, and they could only take it one step at a time. He was also curious about how Lu Chuan would deal with the Lu family tomorrow. This opponent was too powerful, and even if their Zen family took action, they might not be the opponent. Chapter 636. Crisis is coming. The next morning, the wanted order issued by the Lu family spread throughout the Xianshu city. Such a high bounty, anyone who saw it would be extremely tempted. 100,000 taels of gold. If you get it, you can't spend it all in your lifetime. Killers and assassins from all walks of life, top masters from major families, including some powerful martial artists, have all set their sights on the man on the bounty order. On the streets of Xianshu City, passers-by walking here have to keep their eyes on their surroundings at all times, for fear that they will miss the target. In the Zhen family compound, Lu Chuan got up early, stretched his muscles in the yard, and prepared to go to find the Lu family. At this time, in the meeting hall of the Zhen family mansion, all the Zhen family members gathered here and held a serious meeting. The one sitting in the main seat was no longer Zhen Xianheng, but Zhen Giliu, who had just recovered. This citywide wanted order, everyone has seen it, right? Zhen Giliu took the wanted order and observed it carefully. Father, the Lu family has been targeting Lu Chuan for a long time. I believe that Lu Chuan has a way to deal with it. Zhan Xianyu said confidently. Lu Xianming and Lu Ming were not Lu Chuan's opponents, and Zhan Xianyu felt that the rest of the Lu family were not much different. Unless the truly top-level masters of the Lu family took action, they would definitely not be Lu Chuan's opponents. Zhan Giliu looked at Zhan Xianyu and asked, do you think Lu Chuan can deal with the Zhen family? Are you confused? Don't you know the strength of the Lu family? Zhan Xianyu quickly added, once, Lu Chuan defeated Lu Xianming, a general of the Lu family, and Lu Ming, the top assassin of the Lu family. The strength of these two people is extraordinary, and Lu Chuan easily defeated them, so I believe that this time, he can also resolve the crisis. Zhan Giliu sighed, but, the Lu family is a real behemoth. Although Lu Chuan defeated every soldier of the Lu family, it is still a mantis trying to stop a chariot to fight against this behemoth. It seems that the fate of the benefactor is unfortunate, and it has been a dangerous journey. Zhan Giliu sighed. Father, what should we do? Should we continue to take him in, or? It depends on what he chooses. He is my benefactor. I have to protect him no matter what. Zhan Giliu sighed. He knew that, if their Zhen family confronted the Lu family, the end would be very miserable. Therefore, at most they could only protect Lu Chuan, and provide him with a hiding place. If they were to fight the Lu family, it would be impossible. Father, Lu Chuan told me last night that he attacked the Lu family's mansion early this morning, and killed them all. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was silent, and everyone didn't know what to say for a while. One person singled out all the people of the Lu family. This is simply asking for death. Zhan Giliu panicked and asked hurriedly, has he set off now? It's unknown for the time being. Zhan Giliu hurriedly looked at the guard guarding the door and scolded, go and call Master Lu Chuan over. The guard hurriedly went out, and 3 minutes later, he ran back panting. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said hurriedly, Master Lu, he is not in the room. Hearing this, Zhan Giliu stood up in an instant. What did you say? He's not in the room? Yes, that's right. Only his two female companions are still there. He has disappeared. I asked the two ladies and they both said that he went out to look for the Lu family. Upon hearing this, Zhan Giliu was dumbfounded. He sat down on the chair and gasped for breath. He is so brave. He actually dared to go straight over. Zhan Xianheng sighed. This Lu Chuan, he is really fearless, but he should realize that no one is without weaknesses. It's not that no one can deal with him. This time he hit the Lu family mansion. It is definitely extremely dangerous, and there may even be life-threatening accidents. Zhan Xianheng said, shaking his head helplessly. Zhan Xianyu saw that everyone was so pessimistic, and then said, everyone, there is no need to be like this. Lu Chuan is still very strong. So what if he is strong personally? He has to fight against the Lu mansion, which consists of hundreds of people. And there are so many strong people in the mansion. There are more than a dozen warriors above the 5th level of the Martial King realm. He is fighting against so many people alone. What else can this be but suicide? Zhan Xianheng was very puzzled and didn't understand why Lu Chuan did this. Just when everyone was worried about this, a servant hurriedly ran into the mansion and knelt down to Zhan Giliu. Master, just now, the Lu mansion sent out an invitation letter inviting you to the Lu mansion for a meeting. Zhan Giliu looked at the letter presented by the servant and asked, besides me, are there any other people invited? At present, it is known that the leaders of several large families in Shianshu City have been invited. The Lu family held this meeting for a purpose that should not be simple. Zangiliu sighed. Everyone knows that it is not simple, otherwise, the Lu family would not have to invite so many people at once. Moreover, with the strength of the Lu family, they are indeed qualified to summon all the first-class figures in Shianshu City to hold a meeting. Zangiliu looked at Zenshian-heng and Zenshian-Iu. Since it is the Lu family who invited me to attend the meeting, then I will go there. We can't refuse this meeting. So, I have no choice but to attend it. If I meet Lu Chuan on the way, I will persuade him to come back, no matter what I say. Zangiliu said very firmly, and then stood up and walked out of the mansion. Zenshian-heng and Zenshian-Iu acted as bodyguards and followed Zangiliu, walking along the busy streets to the south of the city. The Lu family mansion is located in a more remote area, not a busy area. They are usually low-key, but once they get things done, other families have to make way for them, which can be said to be extremely overbearing. Not long after walking, Zangiliu saw several familiar figures. They were the head of the Zhu family, Zhu Qingcheng, the head of the Xianwu sect, Yao Xianwu, and the head of the Lin family, Lin Xianhei. There are also several other family leaders who represent various forces and are almost the controllers of Shianshu City. It is really impossible for ordinary people to gather them all together. Even the mayor of Shianshu City may not have this appeal, but the Lu family has it. When the Lu family speaks, they dare not disobey. Zangiliu walked towards them. As soon as he approached, he heard them communicating lively. Have you seen the wanted order issued by the Lu family? The man they want to arrest seems to be a traitor to their family. Of course I saw it. I've also set my eyes on this kid. He has something good on him. Hahaha, now that the Lu family has taken action, this kid won't be able to escape. This Shianshu City is his dragnet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 637 Visit. After Lu Chuan left home early, he rushed to the Lu mansion in the south of the city. For Lu Chuan, now is the best time to take action. First, he has just completed a breakthrough and his strength has reached a new level. Second, judging from the fact that the Lu family only posted the wanted order this morning, they only knew that he had arrived here last night. Therefore, the Lu mansion must not have made any preparations now. Their current strength is probably relatively weak, and they don't have time to ask for support from the Lu family headquarters. Therefore, if they launch a surprise attack at this time, the effect will definitely be very good. Lu Chuan naturally doesn't need to make any careful plans. Just go there and fight to solve all the troubles. The Lu mansion is located in a willow forest in the south of the city. It is quiet and remote here. Few people come here, which is enough to show that the Lu mansion is very low-key in Shianshu City. However, although they are stationed here in a low-key manner, they act quite strongly and high profile. For example, the wanted Lu Chuan this time was quite large. Almost overnight, everyone in the city knew Lu Chuan and knew that Lu Chuan's head was worth 100,000 taels of gold. This influence can be said to be quite powerful. At the same time, in the Lu mansion, everyone had gathered in the yard, waiting for the arrival of the guests. Only the Lu family could gather all the big guys from Shianshu City. Everyone stood in the yard, with a relaxed and calm smile on their faces. The lord of the Lu mansion stood in the middle of the crowd. He was wearing a gorgeous green robe, and looked a little elegant. He glanced at everyone and said calmly, "They will be here soon, let's go out to greet them." Next, what we are going to discuss is very important. We must take down this target here. This abandoned child of the family named Lu Chuan has become one of our Lu family's #1 enemies. If we can intercept this man here and capture him alive and report him to the head of the family, Lu Fusheng, this will be a great achievement. At that time, every one of us will be rewarded. After he finished speaking, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. Everyone, the guys now in Shianshu City. Next, we will catch him in the trap. I'm determined to win this matter. Everyone should pay attention and don't be lax as usual. After he finished speaking, everyone nodded and expressed their intention. Then, everyone followed the owner of the mansion, looking to the gate. There were a total of 20 core members of the Lu mansion, all standing at the gate, waiting for the arrival of the distinguished guests. There were 2 rows of big willow trees planted on both sides of the stone road in front of the gate. The willow trees swayed in the wind, making a rustling sound. After waiting for a long time, Lu Kang saw a figure in the distance. The first guest has arrived. He came very quickly. It seems that he is a person who is very concerned about this matter. It is normal to be concerned. After all, this is our Lu family's business. Who dares to slack off? Lu Kang laughed. I don't know where that kid named Lu Chuan is hiding now, but it's useless to hide anywhere. Sooner or later, he will be found. He gritted his teeth and said, seeming a little anxious. In his eyes, this is something that can be accomplished easily, and he can also get a big reward from the family. How can they not look forward to such a good thing? At this time, someone noticed something wrong. That person looks very unfamiliar, and judging from his steps, he doesn't look like an elderly person. This time, we have invited the heads of various families. They are all elderly people, and their steps are very steady, not so brisk. It's too far away, and I can't see what he looks like. It should be a servant of a certain family who came here in advance to make arrangements, right? Lu Kang looked at a sturdy man behind him and said, when the leaders of the big families come, I will order them to search the whole city for this person. They must use all the strength of their families. Once we find the target, we will let you know as soon as possible. For the rest, you should know what to do, right? Don't worry, Lord Mansion, just tell me where the target is, and leave the rest to me. I will take his life easily, and make him disappear from the face of the earth. If you find that person, don't be anxious. There is no need to kill him too quickly. If you can capture him alive, it would be best. In this way, we can get the biggest reward after sending him to the Lu family's headquarters. After speaking, Lu Kang smiled greedily. The sturdy man said with some embarrassment, it depends on whether he can resist or not. I'm afraid that this punch will kill him. Can't you hold back a little? Master, I'll try my best. Lu Kang sighed helplessly. The man behind him was his younger brother Lu Gang, who was born with brute force and was as strong as an ox. Since he started practicing martial arts, few people dared to fight him. It's not that they couldn't beat him, but that Lu Gang was fierce by nature. Even if he was covered in wounds, he was fearless and still rushed towards the enemy, using his brute force. Therefore, even if the enemy was stronger than him, he would be beaten in a very embarrassing way. At the end of the battle, he would be injured in at least 5 or 6 places. Go forward and see which family that man is from. Lu Kang ordered a servant beside him to run forward. The servant hurriedly ran forward and soon rushed out 60 or 70 meters away. He ran towards Lu Chuan. Gradually, he vaguely saw Lu Chuan's figure. Seeing Lu Chuan strolling leisurely, he stopped immediately. He blinked and stared at Lu Chuan's figure carefully. He gradually realized that something was wrong. He felt that this man looked very familiar. He had just seen him not long ago. Suddenly, he realized something and quickly took out the wanted order from his arms. When he unfolded it, he found that the appearance of the man in front of him was exactly the same as the man on the wanted order. The next moment, the servant panicked and threw the wanted order out directly, opened his mouth and shouted loudly. However, at the moment he opened his mouth, Lu Chuan's figure suddenly flashed and rushed towards the man. Behind Lu Chuan, countless black after images appeared, and almost instantly, they were pulled in front of the servant. Swish! Exclamation mark. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chuan arrived in front of the man. Then, he was so scared that he dared not speak, and he dared not breathe, keeping his mouth open. He looked at Lu Chuan, sweating all over, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. He didn't dare to do anything now. Lu Chuan's fierce speed just now scared him. He realized that he could be killed by the man in front of him at any time. The other party's speed was too amazing. Don't kill me. He looked at Lu Chuan with tears in his eyes and begged. However, the next moment, Lu Chuan suddenly drew out the bronze sword and swung it towards the other party's neck. Chapter 638, Martial Arts Genius. Swish. Almost instantly, Lu Chuan swung out the bronze sword, and the speed of his move was quite sharp. Almost instantly, he chopped off the head of the man in front of him. Snap. The head fell to the ground, and Lu Chuan pushed the body away and continued to walk forward. In the distance, at the gate of Lu Mansion, Lu King and the rest of the Lu family were all frightened when they saw this scene. This person is not a good person. He actually dared to cause trouble for our Lu Mansion. He wants to die, right? This guy is so bold that he dared to go against our Lu family. Is he crazy? Who in the whole Xianshu city dares to go against our Lu Mansion? This guy's definitely crazy. Don't be so harsh. There are still people in Xianshu city who dare to go against us. Suddenly, everyone present fell into silence. They all realized something. Now there is indeed someone in Xianshu city who dares to offend their Lu family. There is no doubt that person is Lu Chuan, and they are looking for a reward. For a moment, the rest of the people in the Lu Mansion all looked at Lu King. Lu King stared at Lu Chuan from afar. Now, he had basically seen Lu Chuan's appearance clearly. It's you. You are so brave that you dare to come to our Lu Mansion alone to cause trouble for us. The end of overestimating your own ability and being too confident is death. Since you have sent yourself to our door, don't blame us for being ruthless. Lu King looked back at Lu Gang and said, brother, it seems that we don't need to find this guy. This guy is still a man. He didn't hide and dared to break in here alone. You should know what to do with the rest, right? Lu Gang clasped his hands and said, brother, don't worry. If this person is in my hands, I will definitely cut him into pieces and let him never come back. He spoke with full momentum, and he already had the momentum to take down Lu Chuan. And Lu King also believed in his younger brother very much. He is gifted, and now his strength is already the first level of the martial emperor realm. This strength is already the top strength in Xianshu city. Moreover, he was born with supernatural power and amazing strength, which gave him an extra advantage, allowing him to deal with Lu Chuan more easily. At this time, Lu Gang came out. He was wearing a black martial arts uniform, and was very big, even bigger than a bodybuilder. When ordinary people face such a strong man, they would probably be scared out of their wits before they even fight. Ordinary people can also see that this guy is absolutely amazingly strong. Lu Gang walked towards Lu Chuan, full of momentum. His eyes were full of murderous intent, as if he would kill his opponent just by staring at him. Seeing his fierce eyes, Lu Chuan just smiled indifferently. Facing such a bulky guy, it is just right for him to put his body skills to use. Lu Chuan. You are Lu Chuan. I have heard of your name for a long time. I didn't expect that you found us before we found you. He sneered and walked towards Lu Chuan. He clenched his fists, and his joints cracked. You have posted bounty notices all over the city. Why are you going to such great lengths? Am I not here yet? Today, I will wipe out the entire Lu family, leaving no one alive. Lu Chuan said fiercely. Hearing this, Lu Gang could not help but sneer. Dream on. You are actually going to wipe out our entire family? You are probably out of your mind and starting to talk nonsense. Now, let you taste the power of my fist. He shouted angrily and rushed towards Lu Chuan. His steps were extremely heavy, but full of momentum. Every time he took a step, the ground trembled a little. Lu Chuan felt that this guy was indeed powerful and was probably an opponent who was good at strength. Facing such an opponent, Lu Chuan naturally did not intend to fight head-on. Although, with his strength of the 9th level of the nascent soul realm, he would not lose if he fought head-on, but just in case, he should try to avoid getting hurt. After all, this guy is an appetizer, and there are so many people in the Lu family. Lu Chuan does not want to spend too much time on this guy. Lu Chuan glanced at the people in front of him from the Lu Mansion. It seemed that the Lu Gang they sent out should be the strongest among them. At this time, at the gate of the Lu Mansion, everyone was looking forward to the confrontation between the two. They were all very happy to watch Lu Gang's fight. Lu Gang's punches were so powerful that it was easy to make people excited. In the previous sparring, Lu Gang had beaten his opponent to a bloody mess and his skull was broken. When the blood spurted out from the punch, everyone in the Lu Mansion would cheer and jump for joy. It was the same at this moment. They all wished that Lu Gang could smash Lu Chuan's head with one punch. It's been a long time since I last saw Lu Gang fight. I'm so excited. Since Lu Gang became famous in Xianshu City, no one dared to challenge him. Now there's another fearless guy. It's going to be a good show. Ha ha ha. Let's fight. Stop talking nonsense. Liu Gang, kill this family abandoned child with one punch. Smash this guy's head. Everyone cheered excitedly. Hearing the support of his own people, Liu Gang also got excited at this moment, clenched his fists, and rushed towards Lu Chuan. Take my punch first. Seeing this guy rushing up, Lu Chuan did not directly confront him head on, but activated the skill Extreme Shadow Flash and quickly dodged to the side. Rat. You waste who dare not face me. Liu Gang shouted disdainfully, and then he threw a right swing punch, sweeping towards Lu Chuan. The punch was fierce and full of momentum, like a big pendulum, smashing towards Lu Chuan. At this moment, the sun god fire emerged from Lu Chuan's palm, and he blasted a palm towards Liu Gang. Bang! Exclamation mark. After a muffled sound, Liu Gang was knocked out 4 or 5 meters away, and fell heavily to the ground. The palm that Lu Chuan slapped on him directly penetrated his clothes, and caused severe burns to his abdomen. Liu Gang, who was lying on the ground, quickly covered his lower abdomen. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead, and wailed with gritted teeth. Asshole. You actually plotted against me. If you hadn't suddenly set fire to me, I would have finished you off with this punch. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, staring at Lu Chuan angrily. You were knocked away by my palm, but you still had the courage to shout. Although my palm brought with it fire burns, it was real power. There is not a bit of fakeness. Aren't you known for your strength? It seems your strength is just so-so. Liu Gang was extremely angry at being humiliated about his strength. He glared at Lu Chuan and roared, I will tear you to pieces. I want to let you see who is stronger. Then, Liu Gang stood up. He squatted down, his aura surged, and streams of spiritual energy wrapped around his body, causing his muscles to swell rapidly. Chapter 639 Combat Skills. Liu Gang took a horse stance, his muscles swelled, and his aura was released slowly. The dust on the ground around him was shaken into ripples, which was enough to show that the changes in his body were extremely extraordinary. Not only did his muscles grow, but his aura became more ferocious. His eyes were full of bloodshot, and when he looked at Lu Chuan, his eyes were particularly fierce. The fierce ghost martial spirit is possessed. I will destroy everything with the force of crushing withered and rotten. The veins on his forehead bulged, the hair on his body increased rapidly, and his canine teeth became slender, as if he had degenerated into a savage. Lu Chuan stood there, and couldn't help but smile indifferently. If nothing unexpected happens, this is your last killer move, right? You actually used it at the beginning. Is it so stressful? Haha, go ahead and shout. I just want to end your life, as soon as possible. Once the martial spirit combat skills are activated, only death is waiting for you, and you will die in the most painful way. He roared and rushed towards Lu Chuan again. However, this time, his speed was amazing, and he rushed to Lu Chuan in almost an instant, like a cannonball. Swish. Almost instantly, he rushed to Lu Chuan, swung his huge fist, and smashed towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan felt his amazing momentum, and knew that he needed to temporarily avoid the edge, so he quickly used the Extreme Shadow Flash and quickly retreated to distance himself. Whoosh! Liu Gang's fist made a whistling sound. Although it missed, the momentum had been released, which shocked Lu Chuan. This guy's strength has skyrocketed a lot. This kind of martial soul fighting skill is afraid that it will consume a lot of his vitality. At this time, at the gate of Lu Mansion in the distance, Liu King and his men were all excited when they saw Liu Gang activate the martial soul fighting skill. Liu Gang actually released his martial arts skills. Now we are going to have a good show. Ha ha ha, this Lu Chuan is going to die, and he's going to die miserably. Who gave him the courage to fight Liu Gang? Everyone else thought that Lu Chuan was doomed, but Liu King was a little worried. Being able to force Liu Gang to use his martial arts skills, it seems that this Lu Chuan is quite powerful. However, no matter how powerful he is, he will eventually die at the hands of Liu Gang. Being able to force him to this extent, this Lu Chuan is considered a success. Liu King sighed, and then he relaxed. Since Liu Gang had used his martial arts skills, there was no need for him to worry anymore. The result was already determined, and there would be no surprises. Not only were they confident in Liu Gang's martial arts skills, but Liu Gang himself was even more confident. This was his most proud martial arts skill. Once released, it would definitely kill the opponent, but it consumed too much energy, so he generally would not use it. Obviously, the fight just now made Liu Gang realize that this opponent was not ordinary. To be on the safe side, he decided to release his martial arts skills. Liu Gang chased after him relentlessly, not giving Lu Chuan a chance to breathe. He sprinted several times in succession and followed closely beside Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan dodged in a hurry. Now Liu Gang was in full swing, so there was no need for him to resist. After dodging several times in a row, Liu Gang's momentum was indeed weaker. It seems that as time goes by, the amplification effect on him will gradually weaken. No wonder Liu Gang is getting more and more impatient. If he doesn't deal with Lu Chuan in time, the situation will soon become ugly. He was dodged by Lu Chuan several times in a row, and he roared, "Cowardly bastard, if you have the guts, you stand still, and I will beat you to death with one punch." Lu Chuan laughed and said, "I think you are crazy, right? Why should I stand still and let you hit me? You dare not fight me head on, you are a rat." He roared and punched Lu Chuan again. At this time, Lu Chuan no longer dodged, but chose to fight back and directly hit him with a punch. Seeing this, Liu Gang was immediately excited. "Ha ha ha ha. You've been fooled. This punch of yours will hurt you badly. I'm going to smash your fist." Bang! Exclamation mark. The two fists collided with each other, and a dull sound broke out. The fists of both sides collided, and neither of them gave in, and neither of them took a step back. But the next moment, a cracking sound was heard. The sound of bone fracture was heard, making the faces of both of them look a little ugly. Liu Gang's mouth twitched. He didn't expect that Lu Chuan's fist was so hard that he actually broke his finger bone. And Lu Chuan was not feeling well either. This punch also broke his finger bone. Retracting his fist, Lu Chuan frowned, and then, on his right fist, the nine heavens mysterious fire emerged. In a breath, the bone fracture of Lu Chuan's right fist was completely healed. The opponent Liu Gang gritted his teeth and endured the pain. "Humph. Can you still use your right hand? You dare to bump fists with me? You really don't know how to live or die," he sneered. Then, Lu Chuan raised his right fist and said, "Do you want to clash with me again? You are a lunatic. One more punch, and you will lose your right hand completely. I think you don't dare, right?" Liu Gang shouted angrily. "You said I don't dare? Since you insist on seeking death, I will grant you your wish. One more punch, and your right hand will be crippled." Then, Liu Gang punched Lu Chuan again. Then, Lu Chuan also clenched his fist and bumped into him. It was still a simple collision, but this time, the nine heavens mysterious fire was already burning in the center of Lu Chuan's fist. Liu Gang's right fist had been severely fractured. As long as the nine heavens mysterious fire burned his right hand, it would directly cripple his right hand. As long as this guy's right hand was crippled, the outcome would basically be decided, and Lu Chuan could end the battle without any pressure. Bang! The fists of both sides collided again, and the next moment, a ball of flame suddenly rose, jumped onto Liu Gang's right fist, and started to burn directly. Liu Gang suddenly felt a sharp pain and immediately let out a terrible wail. He quickly retracted his right hand, and held it in his arms, howling in pain. "Asshole, what did you do to me? My hand, my right hand. It hurts." His back teeth were almost broken, sweat dripped down his forehead, and he gasped frantically, not daring to look down at his right hand. The severe pain made him completely lose the strength to stand up. He squatted on the ground, and after a while, the pain in his body was relieved. However, when he looked down at his right hand again, he suddenly found that his right hand was gone. The cross-section of his wrist had been burned to charcoal, and his right hand had completely disappeared, burned into a pile of black slag. At this moment, Liu Gang's mind was blank. After hesitating for a moment, he roared to the sky, "Ah!" The roar frightened the surrounding flocks of birds, and rushed out of the woods. At the gate of Lu's house, everyone was shocked to see this. Chapter 640 You don't deserve the last name Lu. Liu Gang looked at his burned right hand with horror, and he kept screaming, making the people in the Lu mansion tremble with fear. Liu Gang, is he going to lose? How could this happen? He is a martial emperor and a top martial artist with martial soul fighting skills. How could he lose so miserably? I can't accept this result. On what basis? Why? This bastard named Lu Chuan just threw a punch and crippled Lu Gang's right hand. Is this normal? This is definitely not right. Everyone was extremely shocked. In their eyes, Lu Gang, who was extremely brave and good at fighting, was crushed so easily. Lu Chuan not only crushed the big guy Lu Gang, but also crushed the cognition of this group of people. Lu Gang had cold sweat on his forehead at this moment. He took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat, and his lips were trembling. Believe in Lu Gang, he has not completely failed. He still has a chance, believe him. He could only hypnotize himself constantly. As a fighter who used fists, Lu Gang lost one hand, which almost meant he lost half of his fighting power. He was originally no match for his opponent, and it was impossible for him to explode and destroy his opponent now. What's more, Lu Gang had already used his trump card. If this was not Lu Chuan's opponent, then I'm afraid that his other martial arts would not have any effect. At this time, Lu Gang, after the pain, was furious. He was not afraid of Lu Chuan, but became even more angry. His brows were furious, his eyes stared at Lu Chuan fiercely, his muscles swelled, and his breathing became extremely heavy. This was Lu Gang. Even if he fell into any disadvantage, he would not be afraid of his opponent, but would become even more angry and furious. He roared, raised his left hand and patted his chest, and his momentum was like an angry gorilla. Seeing this, Lu Chuan knew that this guy would not stop until he died. If he didn't kill him directly, he would just keep fighting. It seems that this guy is indeed a madman. If someone else were to face him, he would have turned around and fled. I will fight you to the end. I will not forgive you. He roared and rushed towards Lu Chuan. This time, his momentum was even more fierce, and his body was launched towards Lu Chuan like a cannonball. Seeing this, Lu Chuan retreated several steps in succession, but his opponent chased him closely, obviously wanting to fight to the end. And looking at his posture, it seemed that he was going to pounce and knock Lu Chuan to the ground. As long as he could knock Lu Chuan down steadily, he would have the possibility of using brute force and the opportunity to defeat Lu Chuan. Seeing this, Lu Chuan was too lazy to waste time with this guy. A reckless man who had lost his mind was not worth wasting too much time on. If it took so much effort to solve a mere Lu mansion, how could he face the Lu family mansion? Therefore, Lu Chuan stopped dodging, and after gathering the sun god fire on his right fist, he rushed towards Lu Gang. Swish! Exclamation mark. Lu Chuan activated his skill Extreme Shadow Flash, pushing his speed to the limit. In Lu Gang's eyes, he couldn't even catch Lu Chuan's speed trajectory. He blinked, and the next moment, Lu Chuan rushed to him. A mere martial emperor realm first rank is not enough to be my opponent. Go back and practice well. The next moment, Lu Chuan's right fist wrapped with a fireball, slammed towards Lu Gang's abdomen. Bang! Exclamation mark. Lu Chuan's right fist hit Lu Gang's abdomen, and the fireball was released instantly, directly penetrating his abdomen, and the flame sprayed out from his lower back. Boom! Exclamation mark. The flame sprayed for a moment and then disappeared. Then, everyone clearly saw that Lu Chuan's punch directly penetrated Lu Gang's lower abdomen. A puff of black smoke came out of Lu Gang's abdomen, and there was no blood. The wound was instantly burned into black charcoal, and the bleeding stopped directly. Lu Gang stepped back a few steps, looking at Lu Chuan with horror in his eyes. After stepping back a few steps, he fell backward with a plop, and fell heavily to the ground. This fall shocked everyone in the Lu mansion. Lu Gang died just like that. He was killed by a punch in Lu Chuan's hands after only a few moves. This strength gap is quite huge. At this moment, Lu Gang and the others gathered together in fear. Master, what should we do next? Who can kill this bastard? Is this guy a monster? Why can't Lu Gang beat him? It's over. Lu Gang is not his opponent. How many people in Xianshu City can be his opponents? This guy is still walking towards us. What does he want to do? Lu Gang looked directly at Lu Chuan. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Lu Chuan, what else do you want to do? Lu Gang died in your hands. Are you not satisfied? What am I going to do? You shouldn't ask this. You will know what I'm going to do next soon. Boom. Suddenly, the murderous aura around Lu Chuan burst out, making Lu Gang and the others in the distance tremble with fear. This is obviously coming to kill them. Lu Gang was anxious and gritted his teeth and said, "You are so brave. If you dare to kill us all, it will be a huge humiliation for the Lu family. They will send the strongest people in the family to deal with you. If you stop now, maybe you can still survive for a while. If you are bold and dare to massacre us, then your end will definitely be death." Liu King threatened like this. As for whether what he said was true or false, it was unknown, but he was indeed trying to persuade Lu Chuan. He was warning Lu Chuan and telling Lu Chuan how serious the consequences would be if he killed them. The people around Liu King also understood Liu King's meaning in an instant and quickly followed suit. "Lu Chuan, what your Uncle King said is right. If you continue to move forward and cause a disaster, you will be dead." "That's right, Lu Chuan. I heard that you brought your fiancé to Xianshu City. If the Lu family really sent out that group of top family masters, even if you can protect yourself, can your fiancé be protected?" "Lu Chuan, we are all members of the Lu family. Do you still want to engage in endless fratricide? If you kill us, you will be a traitor. You don't deserve the surname Lu." The shouting of this group of people made Lu Chuan feel extremely harsh. These people really did everything they could to survive. They even said such bullshit as fratricide. The one who wants to kill each other is not him, Lu Chuan, but you scumbags. Lu Chuan moved his wrist and began to operate the sun god fire in his body. For these people on the other side, the sun god fire is obviously the most effective means of killing. As Lu Chuan got closer, the fear in Liu King and the others' hearts grew. It was obvious that Lu Chuan was not going to let any of them go. Chapter 641 No One Left Behind. Liu King and the others watched Lu Chuan approaching step by step, and all of them turned pale with fear. Lu Chuan was obviously coming to kill them, and almost no one among these people would think of resisting. After all, the strongest among them, Lu Gang, was defeated by Lu Chuan. Even if they attacked together, they might not be his opponent. Liu King looked at Lu Chuan and scolded, "If you dare to kill us, the Lu family will not let you go." Lu Chuan smiled faintly, "I never expect them to let me go, and I won't let them go either. So do you think I'm afraid of you using this to threaten me?" After saying that, Lu Chuan drew out the bronze sword. The sun god fire fell on the sword, making the whole long sword covered with a layer of flames. The next moment, Lu Chuan rushed into the crowd with the sword and rushed towards the people in front of him. Seeing this, Liu King turned around and fled in a hurry. The rest of the Lu family also began to flee, not daring to look back at Lu Chuan. However, with Lu Chuan's swift speed and fierce attack, it didn't take long for the long sword burning with the fire of the sun to cut these people into pieces. The flames burned the people who were directly hit to ashes. If the sword didn't hit, they would basically be burned half of their bodies. It took less than 5 minutes, and amidst screams, everyone in the Lu mansion died tragically on the spot. The rest of the Lu mansion's servants had already fled in fear, and the entire Lu mansion was empty, leaving only a pile of ashes in front of the door. Lu Chuan put away his long sword, turned around and left. To destroy the entire Lu mansion, this kind of thing is a world-shaking event for anyone in Xianshu City. However, for Lu Chuan, this is just a trivial matter. He is the one who wants to fight against the Lu family. If he can't even solve a small branch, what can he use to fight? At the same time, a convoy of carriages stopped at the gate outside the Lu mansion garden. Outside the iron gate, carriages stopped here one by one, and dignitaries from all walks of life in Xianshu City got off the carriages one after another. Everyone gathered at the door and chatted with each other before entering the garden. Standing in the middle of the crowd were naturally Zhengiliu and Zhu Qingqing of the Zhu family. The two were highly respected in Xianshu City and had extremely high prestige among this group of people. Representatives of many families came to Zhengiliu one after another and greeted him one by one. "It's been a long time since we last met. I didn't expect that the old man's health has recovered so well. It's really gratifying. If you can survive this catastrophe, you will definitely be blessed with good fortune and live a long life in the future. The Zhen family is really blessed." Everyone smiled and greeted Zhengiliu. Zhengiliu also laughed, and the smile on his face was very kind. "Thank you all for your advice. It's not easy for me to recover to this point, thanks to the nobleman in our family." For a moment, everyone in the audience became curious and came to Zhengiliu one after another. The people present knew more or less about Zhengiliu's previous physical illness. In their opinion, Zhengiliu was basically doomed to die. He was paralyzed in bed and could die at any time. There was basically no hope of recovery. Moreover, the Zen family had tried for many years to cure Zengiliu's injuries, but there was no hope. They thought they were going to give up, but unexpectedly, in the last little time left, they really found a solution. The people present were curious about who and what kind of medical skills could bring a dying person back to life. This method was not something that ordinary people could do. Seeing everyone's curious eyes, Zengiliu just smiled faintly, shook his head and said, "Everyone, I'd better not tell you the name of this noble man. If you are destined to meet him in the future, we will meet each other. I understand. The masters are not very conspicuous. They don't want too many people to know. Grandpa Zen is really lucky to meet such a master. If our family can meet such a noble man, we must seize it no matter what. It's hard to meet someone with such magical powers. If we can meet him, it's a great opportunity." Everyone sighed. At this time, Zhu Qingcheng frowned, looked aside, and pondered. Recently, the Zen family hasn't welcomed any distinguished guests. Could this so-called nobleman be that Mr. Lu? Zhu Qingcheng looked confused and still couldn't figure out the situation. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. No matter how he thought about it, Mr. Lu didn't look like a miracle doctor. However, that person was able to revive the family spirit tree of the Hua family and save a life. It seemed a little easier, right? Just as he was thinking, someone greeted him. "Boss Zhu, I heard that you have discussed a new cooperation recently." Several people around him put their eyes on Zhu Qingcheng. "I guess so. He is also an old business partner. He has made a fortune recently and contacted me again. Why don't you tell me the details so that the brothers can have a taste of the soup?" A man came to Zhu Qingcheng with a smile and nudged him with his elbow. Zhu Qingcheng smiled faintly. "You should all know them. They are the Hua family in Huacheng. They have recently re-established cooperation with me." Hearing this, everyone looked confused. The Hua family in Huacheng? Isn't their family spirit tree declining and about to be destroyed? The Hua family is relying on that spirit tree to guarantee the family's strength. If the spirit tree dies, they will be a second-rate family. Haha, these people are actually cooperating with your Zhu family again. What's going on? Have they found other ways to do business? Everyone looked at Zhu Qingcheng curiously. You may not believe it, but the Hua family's spirit tree that was about to die was saved. Hearing this, everyone present looked at each other in disbelief. That spirit tree can be saved? Who has such a great ability? Isn't that spirit tree doomed to die? How can it be saved? Is it true? Old Zhu, don't let them fool you. Zhu Qingcheng said hurriedly, "Of course it's true. The revival of the Hua family's spirit tree is a foregone conclusion, and the spiritual energy has become more vigorous, and the various spirit plants produced are countless. Our Zhu family maintained cooperation with them at the first time, and we will be the largest supplier in the future, and you will all be a step behind. This time, our Zhu family can make a lot of money again." Zhu Qingcheng said, laughing triumphantly. Many other noble families who were engaged in business were a little itchy at the moment. They had already planned in their hearts that, as soon as this matter was over, they would immediately go to the Hua family to discuss cooperation. This kind of opportunity cannot be missed. After everyone finished chatting, they walked into the garden together and followed the road towards the Lu family mansion. Chapter 642, The Empty Lu Mansion. Zangiliu led the way, and everyone came to the gate of Lu Mansion. However, no one came to greet them, which made people feel strange. Lu Mansion invited us to be guests, but there was no one to receive us. Isn't this too rude? Indeed, the Lu family is getting more and more arrogant. If they were not backed by a big family, I would have taught them a lesson long ago. Forget it, give them some face, and go in to see the situation. At this time, Zangiliu stopped and arched his nose, feeling that the smell around him was a bit pungent. Why is there a burnt smell? The rest of the people also stopped and began to smell the smell around them carefully. It is indeed a burnt smell. It's strange. Did they just have a barbecue here? When everyone was puzzled, Zangiliu looked down and saw a layer of black ash on the ground at the gate of Lu Mansion. He squatted down, wiped the ash with his hand, and felt some residual heat. It's still warm. It should have been burned just now. But the question is, what is burned? Zangiliu said with a confused look on his face. Seeing this, the people behind him also felt strange. What on earth happened here? Why do I feel that this place is weird? Too quiet, strangely quiet. This place is not right. Where are the people from the Lu family? Why can't I see any of them? This place must be haunted. I feel a chill on my back. Everyone looked around nervously, and their heartbeats accelerated. At this time, Zangiliu stood up and walked directly into the gate of the Lu mansion and into the yard. However, when he entered the yard, he still couldn't see a single figure. This made everyone feel even more strange. It's really a ghost. Is there anyone? Come out and make a sound. Zangiliu shouted at the top of his voice, but no one responded to him. For a moment, everyone felt that something was wrong. There are so many people in the Lu family, how could no one be here? Moreover, they invited us to be their guests, and we arrived on time, but no one of them is here. Aren't they playing tricks on us? Who knows what these people are thinking? The Lu family is notoriously arrogant. Maybe they are deliberately playing tricks on us. Let's go back. Don't take this humiliation. These bastards, we gave them too much face. Everyone shouted in dissatisfaction. Obviously, they all thought that they were fooled by the Lu family. Zhu Qingcheng came to Zangiliu and asked, "What do you think?" "What can I think? There are no clues here. However, the residue on the ground outside is not simple. There is still residual heat. It should be that something has just been burned. And the ashes are very fine. It is obviously burned by a strong fire, and burned very thoroughly." Zangiliu continued to analyze, his face becoming more and more ugly. Zhu Qingcheng, I have a bold guess in my mind. You can say it. These disappeared Lu family members may be the ashes outside. After these words came out, Zhu Qingcheng was frightened, and his face turned pale, and he took several steps back. Grandpa Zan, you can't say that. All these people in the Lu family were burned to ashes. What kind of person can do such a thing? Zhu Qingcheng looked at Zangiliu in disbelief. He didn't expect that this man could deduce such a result. This is simply horrifying. The rest of the people heard it and thought it was impossible. There are so many people in the Lu mansion, and there is no shortage of strong people. To be able to burn so many people to ashes, the gap in strength must be huge. Besides, who dares to do this? This is the Lu family. In Kunlun domain, how many families dare to offend the Lu family? Counting on your fingers, there are no more than 5, right? Grandpa Zan, you have been lying in bed for too long. Now in Xianshu City, no one dares to provoke the Lu family. Zhu Qingcheng stared at Zangiliu. He knew in his heart how serious the consequences would be if this was true. If everyone in the Lu mansion died here, then in the near future, the Lu family headquarters would send people to completely purge the entire Xianshu City. At that time, the major family forces in this city will definitely be subject to various interrogations and investigations by the Lu family, which is definitely a result they don't want to see. Maybe I'm overthinking. How is this possible? Who has such courage? Zangiliu sneered upon hearing this and said, just because you don't have the courage doesn't mean others don't. Why did the people from the Lu mansion invite us here? Zangiliu's words made everyone fall into deep thought. Without a doubt, they all thought of the wanted order. Grandpa means that the person wanted by the Lu mansion took the initiative and killed those who issued the wanted order? Zangiliu nodded slightly. Yes, it is very possible. Then, Zangiliu thought of Lu Chuan's figure. In his heart, he felt that Lu Chuan was very mysterious. He could easily eradicate the stubborn disease that had plagued him for many years, and he even revived the spirit tree of the Hua family with his own strength. All these methods were very extraordinary. Now, the Lu mansion even issued the most serious city-wide bounty. It is absolutely impossible to say that Lu Chuan has no skills. Zhu Qingcheng, who heard this, also became solemn. Grandpa, are you saying that Lu Chuan came here before us and killed them all? It's very possible. In short, it's impossible for all the people in the Lu mansion to suddenly disappear. They must have been murdered. As for the murderer, as I said, it's most likely this person. The Lu mansion was empty, and everyone walked out of the yard and stood at the door. The ashes on the ground became extremely dazzling at this moment. They felt terrified when they thought that the ashes under their feet were those big figures of the Lu family. These ashes really have temperature. I feel that what the old man said is very likely right. These people in the Lu mansion were really burned to ashes. This man's strength is too strong. Today he can kill the Lu family. Tomorrow he can kill you all. This man is so powerful. If you don't know the inside story, I'm afraid it will make people sleepless. Everyone's face was not very good at the moment. Zangiliu sighed. If he wanted to prove his guess, he could only go back to the mansion and find Lu Chuan to ask in person. Whether or not he could get a result was hard to say. I have to go back home first. Let's meet again later. After saying that, Zangiliu left in a hurry. Zhu Qingcheng hurriedly chased after him. He knew that Lu Chuan lived in the Zhen family. Zangiliu was anxious to go back, so he must be looking for Lu Chuan. He also wanted to join in the fun. If he could find a chance to gain the favor of such a powerful person, it would undoubtedly be a good thing for their Zhu family. Chapter 643. One person did it. At the gate of Lu's house, the crowd gradually dispersed. Zangiliu walked hurriedly, his face full of worries, and walked quickly towards the carriage. Zhu Qingcheng hurriedly followed, following Zangiliu closely. Grandpa Zan, you are in a hurry to go back. Is there something urgent? You are not going back to find Lu Chuan, are you? Zangiliu paused and looked back at him. Does it matter to you who I go back to find? No, I just ask. I want to know. Are you suspicious of Lu Chuan? Do you think he did it? Zhu Qingcheng asked curiously. Zangiliu pondered for a moment and shook his head slightly. Although I think it is possible, but if I think about it carefully, the possibility is really small. After all, this is a Lu mansion. Their strength is absolutely top notch in the entire Xianshu city. How could Lu Chuan kill everyone in the Lu mansion by himself? Zhu Qingcheng couldn't help but frowned when he heard it. At first, I also thought it was Lu Chuan who did it. After all, the Lu family has issued a wanted bounty for him, and it is obvious that there is a grudge between them. But if you really think about it carefully, it is indeed unlikely. Lu Chuan has no power or friends in Xianshu city. If he took action, he would definitely come here alone. It is unlikely that one person could kill the entire Lu family. Zhu Qingcheng sighed. Then who else could it be? Zangiliu said helplessly. I'm afraid it will take a while to figure it out. That person was able to kill everyone in the Lu family, so it would not be difficult for him to hide his whereabouts. Zangiliu took a deep breath and said in a serious tone, I'm afraid that the Lu family will be furious when they learn of the situation here. By then, our Xianshu city will be in chaos. Zangiliu quickened his pace, walked to the front of the carriage, got on the carriage, looked back at Zhu Qingcheng. We should be prepared to face the wrath of the Lu family. After that, he left here in the carriage. Zhu Qingcheng stood there, shaking his head helplessly. The Lu family would definitely be angry when they learned about the situation of the Lu mansion in Xianshu city, and they were furious. He looked up at the sky and sighed. I'm afraid that Xianshu city will set off a turbulent wave in the future. It's hard to say who will live and who will die. After everyone dispersed, the news of the destruction of the Lu mansion spread throughout Xianshu city like a plague. It took only half a day to make it known to everyone in the city. Such heavy news would scare anyone who heard it. In Xianshu city, someone dared to be so cruel to the people of the Lu mansion. This is simply terrible. In their eyes, the Lu family was an existence that could not be offended, just like the emperor. The destruction of the Lu mansion completely broke their previous cognition. In the Zen mansion, Lu Chuan returned to the room, and Gu Xiaorao, who had been waiting for a long time, got up quickly and walked towards Lu Chuan. How is the situation? Sister, are you still worried about Lu Chuan's actions? I'm sure everything has been done. Gu Xiaosang smiled very relaxedly, not looking nervous at all. Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao and said, it's indeed done. All the core members of the Lu mansion have been killed by me, leaving no one behind. However, this matter should spread throughout Xianshu city very soon, and then everyone in the city will know that the Lu mansion has been destroyed. Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly and continued, if this news is spread back to the Lu family's main mansion, I'm afraid it will completely infuriate them. Am I afraid of them? Besides, they have already been infuriated by me. So what's the problem? At this time, there was a knock on the door. Lu Chuan turned his head to look at the door and said, "Come in." Zhan Shai and I walked in and came to Lu Chuan. "Have you heard the latest news from the city? Everyone in the Lu mansion has been killed. Not a single person is left," he exclaimed, his face full of disbelief. Then, he set his sights on Lu Chuan. Seeing Lu Chuan's indifferent reaction, he could not help but become curious. "You already know about this? Also, does this have anything to do with you?" "What does it have to do with me?" Lu Chuan asked back. "Of course it has something to do with you. You are the person they want to reward. Aren't you mortal enemies?" Lu Chuan looked at him and asked, "Do you think I killed so many people in the Lu mansion?" "Of course I don't think so. The Lu mansion is so powerful. How could you be their opponent alone?" Zhan Xianyu said decisively. He didn't believe that Lu Chuan could destroy the Lu mansion alone. It was simply impossible. Seeing Zhan Xianyu's thoughts, Lu Chuan felt relieved. "Since you think so, it means that other people should think so too. Fortunately, it's okay." Lu Chuan sighed. Zhan Xianyu asked curiously, "What do you mean? What's okay?" "Everyone in the Lu mansion died in my hands, but I don't want too many people to know about this, understand?" Zhan Xianyu was frightened when he heard this and stepped back several steps, exclaiming, "You killed everyone in the Lu mansion? You did it all by yourself?" Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "Of course, where else can I find help? I must have done it all by myself." Zhan Xianyu took a deep breath, and Lu Chuan's words shocked him. However, he calmed down and thought carefully, and it seemed that no one else in Xianshu City had this ability. Although he didn't know how much Lu Chuan's real strength was, it seemed to be more exaggerated than he expected. "You'd better not tell this matter casually. I don't want too many people to know," Lu Chuan said. Zhan Xianyu nodded quickly. "No problem. I will keep my mouth shut and won't say anything. Lu Chuan can destroy the Lu mansion, so the Zhen family can't do anything to him." Zhan Xianyu suddenly became nervous. The Lu mansion was destroyed. If the news spreads back to the Lu family, they will definitely be furious. This time, I'm afraid they will do something serious to you. Lu Chuan just shrugged and said calmly, "They have never been soft on me, so I'm not afraid of them doing something serious. Since they are coming, I will accompany them to the end. They and I have a deep hatred that will never end. There is absolutely no possibility of any mediation." Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly. "I understand. You continue to stay in the Zhen mansion. If I hear any movement, I will notify you immediately. This news will probably spread throughout the Kunlun region soon." He sighed heavily and then walked towards the door. "By the way, Lu Chuan, someone from the Lin family came to visit just now. I'll go over to see the situation. If it has anything to do with you, then I'll come over to tell you." Lu Chuan thought carefully and remembered that he had a feud with Lin Qianhe from the Lin family. It must be that his visit to the Zhen family mansion was not a good thing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 644, Lin Qianhe Seeking Death. In the meeting hall of the Zhen family mansion, Zhen Giliu hurried into the hall. As soon as he came back, Lin Qianhe, the head of the Lin family, followed closely and walked into the meeting hall. "Head of the Lin family, what do you want to talk to me about? Just tell me directly." Zhan Giliu sat in the main seat and looked at Lin Qianhe with a calm and solemn expression. Lin Qianhe stood in the center of the hall, and his momentum was obviously much weaker when facing Zhen Giliu. "I heard that a young man named Lu Chuan lives in your house. Is this true or false?" Zhan Giliu smiled faintly, nodded slightly and said, "Yes, he is indeed in our house. But how did you know?" "A few days ago, I went to Huacheng with Zhen Qianyu from your house for the warrior selection. During the period, he brought Lu Chuan to Xianshu City, so I thought Lu Chuan might live here. Now, the Lu mansion has posted a wanted reward, and there has been no news of this man in the whole city after a day. I guess he can't live in a hotel outside, so I guess he should be in your house." Zhan Giliu laughed. "You guessed it quite accurately. So tell me, what exactly do you want to do with him?" Lin Xianhei's face was solemn, and he clasped his hands together. This man killed one of my apprentices, and I have a grudge against him. Now this man has offended the Lu family, so we should hand him over directly and protect ourselves. Not only will we not be punished by the Lu family, but we will also get a reward. Such a great opportunity, we must seize it. Zhang Guiliu smiled coldly. How could he do such a thing as handing over Lu Chuan? Lu Chuan had just saved his life, and he was going to sell out his savior. Is this what a human being would do? Zhang Guiliu was already old. If he lost his reputation in his old age, his life would be in vain. Therefore, he would never hand over Lu Chuan. However, since Lin Xianhei knew that Lu Chuan was in his Zen mansion, if he was allowed to leave here, wouldn't all the news about Lu Chuan's whereabouts be exposed? Thinking of this, Zhang Guiliu knew in his heart that it was impossible for Lin Xianhei to let him go back safely. Master Lin Xianhei, you should know that I was paralyzed in bed a few years ago. I was seriously ill and almost died. We, the Zhen family, have searched for countless famous doctors, but none of them could completely cure my illness. Guess how I got back on my feet? Lin Xianhei frowned and looked at Zhang Guiliu carefully. Indeed, you have recovered so well after not seeing you for a few days. It seems that your Zhen family has really invited a miracle doctor. He can even recover from this level of physical damage. It seems that this miracle doctor is really extraordinary. He sighed. His words made Zhang Guiliu feel uncomfortable. Zhang Guiliu said with a cold face, the person who completely cured me was that Mr. Lu. You are talking about Lu Chuan? He cured you completely? Lin Xianhei opened his eyes wide and looked at Zhang Guiliu, feeling a little unbelievable. He had met Lu Chuan once before, and no matter how he looked at him, he didn't look like a doctor. That's right. I was paralyzed in bed yesterday and almost lost my life. It was Lu Chuan who treated me and restored me to the point where I can move freely now. My body is even stronger than when I was young. So, you should know what I mean. Mr. Lu Chuan, he is my savior. Lin Xianhei was frightened for a moment and took 2 steps back. Master Zhan, what do you mean by this? Are you going to protect this man to the death? He is the mortal enemy of the Lu family. If you protect him to the death, won't you put the Zhen family in danger? Your decision is very irrational. Lin Xianhei exclaimed. He really couldn't imagine that Zhang Guiliu would make such a bold decision in his old age. Isn't this operation of protecting Lu Chuan putting the entire Zhen family on the fire? Zhang Guiliu just laughed when he heard what Lin Xianhei said. Ha 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 ha. I, Zhang Guiliu, have never been told what to do in my life. Who do you think you are to dare to talk to me like that? Zhang Guiliu shouted angrily, frightening Lin Xianhei so much that he trembled all over. I have something to do at home, so I'll leave first, he said, and turned around to leave the meeting hall. Then, the Zhen family guards who were guarding the door stopped him at the door. Seeing this, Lin Xianhei suddenly turned back to look at Zhang Guiliu and asked, You, what do you mean? Since you are here, don't go back. You are so talkative, you will definitely say nonsense when you go back, so just stay here honestly. Lin Xianhei immediately became anxious and said angrily, Master Zhan, are you going to put me under house arrest? Since when did your Zhen family act so domineeringly? Whatever you say, as for how to deal with you, it is up to Lu Chuan to decide. What? You want him to deal with me? Why? He has a grudge against me, and he will definitely take revenge on me. Master Zhan, you must let me go. Do you want your Zhen family to offend our Lin family? If I can't go back, everyone in the Lin family will know that it was your Zhen family who harmed me, he shouted angrily. However, Zhan Xianhei turned and walked out of the meeting hall and walked towards Lu Chuan's residence. Seeing that Zhang Guiliu was indifferent, Lin Xianhei suddenly felt desperate and almost collapsed to the ground. At this time, Zhan Xianhei hurried to the guest room and found Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan, that Lin Xianhei came to my father for you. That bastard knew you lived here, and he wanted to persuade my father to hand you over. Lu Chuan looked at the hurried Zhan Xianhei. What did your father say? He certainly won't betray you. He also asked me to ask you how to deal with this Lin Xianhei. Lu Chuan said casually, of course, kill him. If this person disappears in the Zhen mansion, the Lin family will inevitably come to ask for an explanation, which is also a big trouble. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. If the Lin family dares to make any trouble, then destroy them all. Hearing this, Zhan Xianyu trembled all over. Lu Chuan's words were too oppressive. Hearing that he wanted to destroy a family casually, how could an ordinary person do this? This Xianxu city was really turned upside down by Lu Chuan alone. I know, this Lin Xianhe is dead. I won't let him walk out of here alive. After Zhan Xianyu finished speaking, he retreated. Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan and asked, since the Lu mansion has been destroyed, do we still need to stay here? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. We need to stay here for a while. I still have things to do. I plan to go to Xianwu Gate. From them, I may be able to learn some secrets about the branches of the sacred tree. This branch of the sacred tree has given me great help, but I know very little about it. It is necessary to learn more about it. Chapter 645, The Second Elder of Xianwu Sect. The next morning, Lu Chuan got up early and practiced in the courtyard. The peaceful courtyard formed a huge contrast with the violent storm outside. The whole Xianxu city was in a panic, and everyone was worried about what the Lu family would do next. There is no doubt that after the Lu mansion was destroyed, the Lu family would definitely send heavy troops to garrison Xianxu city. Then, the matter must be thoroughly investigated. At that time, all the major families would inevitably be interrogated. In the process, they are afraid that they will be persecuted. Those people in the Lu family are very despicable. If they come to their house one by one, I'm afraid they will inevitably extort some oil and water. In the Zhan mansion, Zhan Xianyu came to visit Lu Chuan early in the morning. Mr. Lu, what are your plans today? Zhan Xianyu walked over with a smile. Lu Chuan, who was resting on a stone chair, saw him and said with a smile, sit down first. I plan to go to Xianwu. Zhan Xianyu frowned slightly. Xianwu seems to have some grudges against you. If you go to visit them, wouldn't it be very dangerous? Besides, their strength is much stronger than those people in Lu mansion. If you go alone, I'm afraid you are not their opponent. Lu Chuan shrugged indifferently. Of course I won't go directly to confront them head on. I just want to learn some things from them. This, I'm afraid it's not easy to do. Who in Xianwu can sit down and chat with you calmly? Moreover, the headquarters of Xianwu is on Loyan Mountain outside Xianxu city. The mountain is steep and dangerous, and it is not easy for ordinary people to go up. Their branches in Xianxu city. They usually select some talented young warriors and take them to the mountain to practice. By the way, Xianwu is going to select a new batch of young warriors recently. Why don't you join in the fun and see if you can get to know some people from Xianwu? Hearing this, Lu Chuan nodded slightly. When will they start the selection? It will last for a week. Today is the third day. It will start in the afternoon. How about we go over and join in the fun? Zhan Xianyu suggested. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. No problem. Let's go and take a look. Then, the two of them stood up together and prepared to leave the yard. At this time, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang came over together. Are you going out? You are a celebrity in Xianxu city now. Everyone knows your appearance and name. Gu Xiaorao walked over and said. That's right. You still dare to go out now? Aren't you afraid of being besieged by those people who are greedy for 100,000 gold? Gu Xiaosang said immediately. Lu Chuan looked at Zhan Xianyu and asked, does your family have a mask or something like that? As long as it can cover the face, it will be fine. I have a black veil here, just use it. Lu Chuan took the veil from him and put it on his face, covering half of his face. If passers-by saw him, they would definitely not recognize that he was Lu Chuan. Only Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang could barely tell that it was Lu Chuan from his back and posture. After hiding his identity, Lu Chuan left the Zhan mansion with Zhan Xianyu. Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang insisted on following him, so the four of them went out together and walked towards the place where the warriors were selected. The city was still very lively, and Lu Chuan and the other four soon arrived at the square of Xianxu city. The competition stage was built here, and hundreds of people gathered, all excitedly watching the two people fighting on the competition stage. Lu Chuan walked towards the competition stage. The person who is currently presiding over the selection is the second elder of Xianwu sect, who is a very prestigious figure in Xianwu sect. The warriors who came to participate in the competition are very serious this time, and they have used all their potential. As long as they can catch the eyes of the second elder, they will be completely successful in the future, Zanshaya said, and squeezed into the crowd. The two people on the stage, each holding a sword, were constantly fighting. After several rounds of fighting between the two, Lu Chuan could see that they were both at the Saint realm. Their strength was average, but they were young enough and had great potential in the future. In the distance, an old man in a red robe with flame patterns sat on a wooden chair. His eyes were bright as he stared at the two people on the competition stage. That was the second elder of the Cheyenne Wu sect. This old man must know about the branches of the sacred tree. What Lu Chuan needed to find out now was what kind of people they were entrusted with to find the branches of the sacred tree, and where they came from. Soon, one of the people on the competition stage was hit in the shoulder, and blood spurted out. Then the winner was announced. The second elder stood up and clapped softly. Both of you have a good foundation and a promising future, but I don't have many places, so I can only accept the winner as my apprentice. Hearing this, the winner jumped up excitedly, waving the weapon in his hand, and was so excited that tears came out. The old man sat back in his original position, and soon, the next group of warriors came on stage and started the duel. At this time, Lu Chuan noticed a man in black behind the old man. He looked very young and stood behind the old man without saying a word. Who is that person? Zanshaya immediately followed Lu Chuan's gaze and looked over. That person, he is Gulai's direct disciple. Gulai. Is this second elder called Gulai? Yes, this direct disciple is called Zhao Shengyang. His strength is at the peak of the Martial King realm, and he is just 20 years old, so we can only say that he has a promising future. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Does this Gulai have many direct disciples? Not many, only 12. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. He knew that this second elder was highly respected in Cheyenne Wu sect, and he must know something about the branches of the sacred tree. But the problem is that he must find a way to contact this person now, otherwise, he won't even have the chance to ask. Then, Lu Chuan set his sights on Guzayana-sang. Hey, why are you staring at me? Do you have something to ask of me? Excuse me, go up on stage to participate in the selection. I believe you can become Gulai's disciple. Guzayana-sang looked at Lu Chuan with suspicion. Why should I become his disciple? What do you mean by that? Do you know how many warriors in Cheyenne-Shu City dream of becoming Gulai's disciple? You actually asked such a question. It's outrageous. Zanshaya said speechlessly. Guzayana-sang continued to ask disapprovingly. That's other people's business. Does it have anything to do with me? It has something to do with me. You go up on stage to compete, and then become Gulai's disciple. In this way, you can help me create an opportunity to meet him alone. Lu Chuan said anxiously. Guzayana-sang looked at Lu Chuan and asked, why do you want to meet him alone? Of course it's for the branch of the sacred tree. I want to find out the origin of this branch, what its specific function is, and who are looking for this branch. I know nothing about it now, and this Gulai, including the Cheyenne Wu sect, was commissioned to send people to the secular world to find this branch. They must know something. So, please do me this favor once. After Guzayana-sang pondered for a long time, she nodded helplessly. Okay, since you are my brother-in-law, I will help you once. Just watch my performance. After that, she walked towards the registration office. Chapter 646 The Harmless Girl. Guzayana-sang signed up and returned to the audience to continue waiting. Soon, the competition of this group of warriors ended. After the winner was decided, the two walked down the competition stage. Then, the next round of competition began immediately. The next warriors to compete are Guzayana-sang and Enyang. The competition officially begins. Please come on stage. Guzayana-sang walked out of the crowd. When everyone saw that it was a short, young-looking little girl, they couldn't help but murmur. This warrior looks very young. I'm afraid she is not even 20 years old. I guess her fighting ability is not very high. She actually has the courage to sign up for the Cheyenne Woman Warrior selection. She is really brave. She is so beautiful. Don't get disfigured by the beating. I hope her opponent Enyang can be gentle. There doesn't seem to be any suspense between this pair. The winner is obvious. The crowd was talking. In their eyes, Gu Xiaosang obviously had no fighting ability. Not only from the age, but also from the appearance. No one thought she would be Anyang's opponent. Anyang, on the other hand, was a martial artist trained in the Huang family martial arts school in Xianshu City. He was very experienced in combat, and had excellent strength in all aspects. Facing such an elite player, the outcome was not a big suspense. Gu Xiaosang chose to ignore all the noisy voices of the people around her. She looked at the man in front of her and said, "Let's start the fight. I don't want to waste too much time on you." Hearing this, Anyang also became excited. "You said that, as if you were my opponent. However, I also want to end it, as soon as possible. I won't show mercy to you, just because you are a girl. If you get hurt, it's your own fault. You have the courage to be my opponent." The next moment, Anyang drew out the sword at his waist, and pointed it at Gu Xiaosang. Gu Xiaosang was not to be outdone. He also drew out his long sword, and got ready for battle. Without too many pre-match greetings, the two rushed towards each other directly, and the sharp swordsmanship of both sides quickly intertwined. The sound of metal clashing continued to ring out. After several rounds of fighting, the two sides temporarily pulled apart, and Anyang's face became solemn. He frowned slightly, and looked at Gu Xiaosang's hands. The pair of white hands still held the hilt of the sword steadily, without any trembling. And he himself, after that fight, his hands were shaken slightly. He began to feel bad in his heart. Did he make a mistake? He thought it must be an illusion, so he rushed towards Gu Xiaosang again. Gu Xiaosang looked at Anyang calmly and said calmly, "I'd better end this battle, as soon as possible. It's really boring to fight with you." Hearing this, Gulai, who was sitting on the sidelines, suddenly brightened up, and looked at Gu Xiaosang seriously. He vaguely felt Gu Xiaosang's extraordinary strength. At such a young age, he has such strength. I'm afraid he has already broken through to the Martial King realm. It seems that he is also a promising warrior. Of course, compared with his beloved disciple Zhao Shengyang, that is definitely not comparable. At the age of 20, she has reached the peak strength of the Martial King realm. This talent is considered to be the best in the entire Xianshu city. Gulai turned back to look at Zhao Shengyang. "Disciple, what do you think of this woman's strength? She has good swordsmanship and strong hard power, but lacks skills. She doesn't look like she comes from a famous family. I guess she must have had some opportunity to break through to the Martial King realm, but her level of martial arts is average. So, if I were to face her, I would definitely win within 3 rounds. Gulai laughed. "Of course I believe in your strength, but not everyone has the same talent as you. This girl called Gu Xiaosang has quite good strength and talent. In Xianshu City, she is also considered a genius. If she wins, then I will decide to accept her as my disciple. Not into the Xianwu sect, but into my name. I, Gulai, generally don't accept disciples unless they perform amazingly. This girl has a top grade talent, which is enough. I can slowly teach her about the rest." Gulai smiled and was happy that he had another disciple. On the competition stage, the two sides reached the final stage, and Anyang was obviously not Gu Xiaosang's opponent. Even if he used all his life's learning, he was no match for Gu Xiaosang. This is not a gap in skills, but a gap in hard power. The gap in hard power is the most cruel, and it is difficult to make up for it, no matter how much external force you borrow. Before going on stage, when he saw the appearance of his opponent Gu Xiaosang, he thought he was safe, and this time he went on stage to bully the little girl. But he didn't expect that Gu Xiaosang, who looked harmless, had such hard power that he couldn't bite it at all. In the end, Anyang lost, and several wounds appeared on his arms, and blood stained his sleeves red. He had no choice but to clasp his fists in front of Gu Xiaosang, and said with a face full of shame, "I'm not as good as you, and I'm willing to admit defeat." Gu Xiaosang waved his hand indifferently. "How can I be inferior to you in skills? You are just not as strong as me." Although it sounds harsh, it is quite true. Anyang nodded helplessly, and then withdrew from the competition stage. This defeat made him feel very uncomfortable. His previous title of genius had all become something that made him ashamed. Gu Xiaosang stood on the competition stage, turned his head, and looked at Gulai, and asked, "Old sir, I should be qualified to join Cheyenne woman, right?" Gulai quickly stood up, and looked at Guzayana-sang and clapped slightly. "It's really good. You brought us a wonderful competition. I didn't expect that you are so young and your cultivation level is so strong. It seems that you are indeed a rare genius. The best wood must be handed over to a master to carve it into a work of art. So, I, Gulai, decided to personally accept you as my apprentice. You will become my disciple and follow me to Cheyenne woman to practice." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience cast envious eyes at Guzayana-sang. The apprentice of the second elder of Cheyenne woman is what countless people dream of. Everyone present knew in their hearts that Guzayana-sang's future prospects would be limitless. Everyone in the audience whispered to each other and asked each other. However, after discussing for a long time, they still couldn't figure out which martial arts school this Guzayana-sang belonged to. So, soon someone guessed that Guzayana-sang was from another place. Otherwise, with this level of talent, it is impossible that no one would know her. Guzayana-sang returned to the stage to make room for the next round of competition. She walked towards Luchuan and said with a smile, "How was it? Did I perform well?" Luchuan nodded with satisfaction. "Well done." When the people around saw Guzayana-sang walking towards Zanchayanayu and the others, they all understood immediately that this Guzayana-sang was from the Zan family. Chapter 647 Huang Yuking's whereabouts. The Cheyenne Wu sect's warrior selection was over soon. A total of 30 warriors were recruited for the Cheyenne Wu sect. Gulai personally selected 2 of them as his personal disciples. After the selection was over, everyone dispersed and Zhao Shengyang walked towards Guzayana-sang. "Come with me, the master wants to see you." He walked to Guzayana-sang's side and glanced at the other people present. He set his eyes on Luchuan, and he was very keen to detect a hint of extraordinary aura from Luchuan. However, Luchuan covered his face, so he only had a look. Then, Guzayana-sang followed him towards Gulai. Gulai sat on a chair, picked up the teacup beside him, and took 2 sips. When he saw Guzayana-sang coming, he immediately smiled. "Zayana-sang, pack your luggage and go to Cheyenne Wu sect with us, where you will start your future training career. You will grow up quickly under my guidance." However, she did not participate in the competition to become a disciple of Cheyenne Wu sect. "Old sir, can you come to Bay Tower in the evening? I want to talk to you alone." Hearing this, Gulai frowned slightly. "What do you want to talk to me about?" "You will know when you go there." Zhao Shengyang immediately showed dissatisfaction. "Watch your tone. My master is not your servant. He doesn't need to obey you. I didn't force him, but I have something important to tell him. It's not convenient to say it here. You are not worried that I will harm your master, are you?" "I don't have the strength to do so." Zhao Shengyang didn't know what to say for a moment and turned to look at Gulai. "It doesn't matter. Since you have something to tell me, I will go there. But my time is precious. I will only stay there for a few minutes at most, and then I will go back to deal with other things." Guzayana-sang nodded with satisfaction. "Okay, I'll wait for you at the door then." After that, Guzayana-sang turned around and left. Looking at her back, Gulai stroked his beard and frowned. "What does this little girl want to say? She doesn't know me either. Forget it. Let's go over and take a look. She's just a little girl. How can I be afraid that she will harm me?" Gulai stood up and began to deal with the selection results. Guzayana-sang returned to Luchuan and said with a smile he agreed to go over there in the evening. "Okay, it's none of your business. Leave the rest to me. I'm also curious about the situation of the branches of the sacred tree. Can I sit in on it?" Guzayana-sang opened his eyes wide and looked at Luchuan expectantly. "You will only cause me trouble if you go over there. Let's forget it." Hearing Luchuan's words, Guzayana-sang immediately frowned. "You are so heartless to kill the donkey after it has done its work." Guzayana persuaded, "Don't always join in the fun. Luchuan will naturally tell you what he knows when he comes back. But I want to know it as soon as possible," she said with a little grievance. Guzayana smiled helplessly. At this time, Zanchayanayu, who was standing next to him, looked at Luchuan curiously. "What is the origin of this branch you are talking about?" Lu Chuan explained. It is something rich in spiritual energy. What you said is true. Any pill I buy is rich in spiritual energy. Zhan Xianyu smiled awkwardly. Then, he continued to ask tentatively, is this thing used to revive the Hua family's spiritual tree? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, I use this to revive the Hua family's spiritual tree. Hearing this, Zhan Xianyu couldn't help but take a breath. Then, this small branch actually contains such amazing spiritual energy. How amazing would the spiritual energy contained in the body of the sacred tree be? It's really terrible. There are so many wonders in the world, and there are such magical things, he exclaimed. Lu Chuan continued, I don't know much about this thing either, so I'm trying to figure out the situation now. Let's go. I'll go to Bay Tower at night. This Gulai must know something. They returned to the Zen mansion for the time being. It was not until the evening that Lu Chuan put on his veil again and walked out of the Zen mansion. Beihalau is not the most high-end restaurant in Xianshu City. It is located in a remote area in the north of the city, where there are fewer people and business is also average. In front of Beihalau, Lu Chuan stood there, waiting for Gulai. Not long after, he saw the man in a red flame-patterned robe coming. Gulai and his disciple Zhao Shengyang walked towards this side. Before reaching the door, Zhao Shengyang said angrily, Gu Xiaosang said that she would wait for someone at the door. Where is she? Isn't this playing tricks on us? Master, can such a person be accepted? He is completely disrespectful to his elders. Gulai raised his hand to signal him to calm down. Don't get excited when facing things. It's hard to achieve great things if you are off. Be fooled by others, then be fooled. Anyway, there is only one chance. If she doesn't cherish it, it's her loss. What does it have to do with you and me? After he said that, he turned around and left. He naturally would not choose to go in and look for it. If Gu Xiaosang was not waiting for them at the door, they would never go in. As soon as he turned around, Lu Chuan hurried over. Old sir, can you stay? Gulai paused and looked back at Lu Chuan. What do you want from me? Take off your veil. You dare not even show your face. You are not qualified to talk to my master, Zhao Shengyang said arrogantly. But the next moment, he felt a familiar breath from Lu Chuan. You are the man from the daytime. You are in the same group with that Gu Xiaosang. Zhao Shengyang turned to look at Gulai. Master, this is indeed a trick. Gu Xiaosang's purpose for participating in the warrior selection is not pure. Gulai still looked calm, looked at Lu Chuan, and asked, tell me, what do you want to talk to me about? My time is precious, and I don't want to waste too much time here. Old sir, Yushian Wu sect should know me. Haha, you should take off your veil before you say that. Lu Chuan continued, your third elder hasn't been back for a long time. Gulai frowned slightly. Only people inside their Xian Wu sect knew about this. Where did this person get the news? What do you want to say? I know the whereabouts of your third elder. He is still in Huacheng. Gulai opened his eyes slightly and looked directly at Lu Chuan. What did you say? You know the whereabouts of the third elder? Where is he now? Lu Chuan felt fortunate in his heart. Xian Wu sect really didn't know about Huang Yuking's death. I want to ask you a few questions. If you answer truthfully, I will naturally tell you the whereabouts of Huang Yuking. Gulai frowned and looked at Lu Chuan with doubt in his heart. What do you want to ask? What if I say what I should say, and you turn around and leave? Your excellency is so powerful, are you afraid that I will cheat? Hearing this, Gulai nodded slightly and then said, ask whatever you want to ask, and I will try my best to answer what I can. Chapter 648 Exchange of Information. Xian Wu sect had lost contact with Huang Yuking for a long time, and everyone in the sect was trying to find out about him. As the second elder, Gulai was naturally very anxious. Now that he finally had a clue, he must grasp it. Therefore, Lu Chuan also knew that he would not reject him. Lu Chuan continued to look at Gulai and pulled him to a deserted alley. Zhao Shengyang stood on the street, watching over their conversation. Ask me what you want to ask, I'm in a hurry. You, Xian Wu sect, have sent out several people one after another, and even reached out to the secular world, in order to find something, right? Gulai frowned and stared at Lu Chuan. Go on. What you are looking for must be very precious. Can you tell me what it is? Gulai sneered. Tell you? How is it possible? Don't dream. Really? Then Huang Yuking will never get out in this life. He is trapped in a place that no one knows. Only I know where he is. If no one saves him in time, he will die soon. Gulai took a deep breath and nodded helplessly. Okay, I'll tell you. What we are looking for is an extremely rare equipment, a sword. Okay, it's your turn to tell. Where is Huang Yuking? Gulai shouted impatiently. You lied. Lu Chuan said in a deep voice, staring at Gulai with his eyes, showing great dissatisfaction. Gulai pointed his finger at Lu Chuan and scolded. You said I was lying? I, Gulai, have always been upright, and have never told any lies. You slander me out of thin air. You are so bold. Lu Chuan said coldly, if you don't tell the truth, Huang Yuking will be dead. Gulai saw that he couldn't scare the other party, and his momentum weakened immediately. Okay, it seems that you are not an ordinary person. What we are looking for is a branch of a sacred tree. That branch comes from the sacred tree of the origin of the world. It contains extremely amazing spiritual energy. Those who get this treasure will step into the peak of Kunlun domain in the future, and become the supreme power that looks down on the world. Such a treasure, we naturally want to get it. Lu Chuan continued to ask, who entrusted you to find the branch? Gulai sneered, didn't you understand? Such a precious thing, everyone wants to get it. Do we still need to be entrusted? If our Cheyenne Wu sect gets this branch, the entire sect will stand at the top of Kunlun domain, and it is not impossible to surpass the Lu family. You are actually asking now, who entrusted us? This is ridiculous. Lu Chuan continued to ask, tell me, who entrusted you to find the branch? I don't want to ask again, my patience is limited. Gulai was stunned. He felt a sense of horror in his heart. From just now to now, he has failed to bluff the other party several times in a row. It seems that this person is very unusual. Gulai's expression became solemn, and the look he gave Lu Chuan became a little nervous. But this is normal. In his eyes, he seems to be seen through by the other party. In this situation, it is impossible for him not to be nervous. The person who entrusted us is from Penglai Fairyland, and is one King Gaiu, a disciple of the immortal. Facing this person, we, Cheyenne women, can only follow orders, and not have any selfish thoughts. So, we send people to find the branches of the sacred tree, just to find them, and we dare not take them alone. You know a lot, why do you still ask me this? Gulai looked at Lu Chuan curiously. Let me ask you one more question. Where is the location of this world origin sacred tree? This is a secret, you ask me. Aren't you embarrassing me? I really don't know this. If you can go to Penglai Fairyland one day, maybe you can know something about it. Gulai hurriedly asked, now, can you tell me the location of Huang Yuking? Outside Huacheng, Fanhua Valley, Teo Yiling. Look for it there, you will find Huang Yuking. Teo Yiling? Can that place trap Huang Yuking? Gulai asked with a puzzled look. I definitely didn't lie to you. Send someone to look for her, and they will definitely find her. If there is no result, come to the Zhen's house to find me. Lu Chuan said, and was about to turn around and leave. Zhao Shengyang stopped him. Why should we believe what you said? Lu Chuan looked at Zhao Shengyang and said, didn't you see me and Zhenshai and I walking together during the day? If you can't find Huang Yuking, come to the Zhen's house to find me. After that, Lu Chuan brushed past Zhao Shengyang's body and walked out of the alley. Gulai was stunned, and his heart didn't calm down for a long time. This person is not simple, Gulai exclaimed. Zhao Shengyang walked up to Gulai and asked, Master, are you sure that your uncle is in Huacheng? Of course he is in Huacheng, but the sect sent him there to deal with a guy named Lu Chuan, who is holding a branch of the sacred tree. In theory, Elder Huang should be able to deal with this guy named Lu Chuan, but the delay is too long. However, you go to Huacheng in person and bring your uncle back. If you can't find your uncle on Teohua Ridge, I will go to the Zhen family and ask for clarification. Zhao Shengyang bowed and clasped his fists and said respectfully, don't worry, Master, I will definitely bring my uncle back safely. After saying that, Zhao Shengyang turned and left, disappearing into the darkness. Gulai looked at the street and couldn't help but wonder, who could that person just now be? Could it be that the man was Lu Chuan? It shouldn't be possible. You have to believe in Huang Yuking's strength. He left here in a hurry. On the other side, Lu Chuan returned to the Zun family's mansion. In the yard, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang waited for a long time. When they saw Lu Chuan coming back, they hurriedly got up and walked towards Lu Chuan. What's the result? Did you find out anything? Lu Chuan nodded slightly, looked at Gu Xiaorao, and said, the person who commissioned them to find the tree branch is called Wan Qingaiyu, and he is from Penglai Fairyland. I roughly guessed that it was someone from Penglai Fairyland, but I don't know who it is exactly. Since you know that the man is called Wan Qingaiyu, you still have to be more careful in Kunlun domain in the future. If you meet this guy, you must not let him go. Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly, and then said, I'm afraid this man's strength must be very strong. He can make a force like Cheyenne Wu sect obey him obediently. His strength must be extraordinary. Let's talk about it when we meet him. Gulai must have sent people to Hua Cheng to find their third elder. If they find Huan Yuking's body, they will be furious. By then, I'm afraid it will be the time for me to settle accounts with Cheyenne Wu sect. Gu Xiaosang widened his eyes and looked at Lu Chuan curiously. Did you fool them that Huang Yuking was still alive? Yes, Gulai believed it. Otherwise, I would not have been able to ask so many things so smoothly. It probably won't be long before he comes looking for me. Chapter 649, Divine Weapon Pavilion. The next morning, Lu Chuan got up early and sat on the bed to absorb the spiritual energy released by the branches of the sacred tree. After a morning of spiritual nourishment, he felt refreshed and full of strength. He came to the yard and saw Gu Xiaorao, Gu Xiaosang, and Zhen Xianayu sitting at the stone table in the yard. Lu Chuan walked towards the three people. Xianayu, how long have you been waiting for me outside? Zhan Xianayu stood up, looked at Lu Chuan, and said with a smile, I heard from Gu Xiaorao that you were practicing quietly in the room, so I didn't disturb you. It's like this, the latest news is that the news of the demise of the Lu mansion has been passed to the Lu family headquarters. As for the specific reaction of the Lu family, it is still unknown, but everyone knows that the Lu family will be very angry when they know the news. You may have to prepare to face the wrath of the Lu family. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. It's not a big deal. Isn't this a big deal? This is already a big deal. In the Kunlun domain, the Lu family's affairs are big deals. Lu Chuan smiled indifferently. There is no need to be so nervous. This is not the first day I have dealt with them. Since I came to this Kunlun domain, I have been hunted by them many times. Now that I have made them realize the reality, they should calm down and think, instead of rashly sending people out to die. The Lu family should consider a thorough plan to target me in the near future. Zhan Xianayu's expression became solemn. The Lu family is known as a hegemonic family in the Kunlun domain, and there is a reason for that. The reason is very simple, that is, this family acts like a hegemon. When encountering someone who is against them, they will directly order the killing and kill the enemy neatly without wasting any time. Basically, anyone in the Kunlun domain who the Lu family wants to kill will die within 3 days after they give an order. As for what Lu Chuan said, asking the Lu family to calm down and come up with a thorough plan to deal with it, that kind of situation is almost unseen. Even the big families that are almost the same in strength as the Lu family dare not ask the Lu family to act so cautiously. It seems that Lu Chuan has indeed put a lot of pressure on the Lu family. It depends on the situation. If they send people to do it directly, they should be here in 2 or 3 days. Lu Chuan looked at Zhen Xianayu and asked, I want to ask you something. Just ask, I'll tell you what I know. Where is the best weapon maker in Xianshu City? Zhan Xianayu frowned slightly. Why do you want to find a weapon maker? Do you need a handy piece of equipment? Our Zhen family can provide you with high quality equipment. Lu Chuan shook his head and took off the bronze sword behind him. For this bronze sword, the blade still has a lot of secrets. I want to find out the secret of this sword. Why can it kill evil spirits? What is its origin? These are all troubling me. Zhan Xianayu looked at the bronze sword. Such an ordinary long sword, if someone who doesn't know the secret sees it, I'm afraid it will be regarded as scrap metal. I know a weaponsmith who works in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The Divine Weapon Pavilion has a branch in Xianshu City. Basically, all the best weapons in Xianshu City can be bought there. However, our Zhen family doesn't have a deep relationship with them, so I may not be able to help much. He spread his hands helplessly. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Then take us there. I'll go find a swordsmith inside and see if I can figure out anything. That's no problem. I'll lead the way. After he finished speaking, he walked out of the yard. The four of them left the Zen mansion and walked on the busy streets of Xianshu City. Lu Chuan still wore a veil to cover his whereabouts as much as possible. After all, there were too many people eyeing him, so he had to take some concealment measures. Soon, the four of them arrived in front of the gate of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The magnificent pavilion has a total of 6 floors. The walls outside the courtyard are towering, and the vermilion gate in front of them is solemn. The guards at the door have serious expressions and look straight ahead. Zanshai and I walked towards the guards. I'm here to buy equipment. Please open the door. Lu Chuan walked aside and asked curiously, is this a place to sell things? It looks too cold. They sell high-end goods, which are somewhat superior. Don't mind it. Customers who come to buy things from them usually need to make an appointment in advance. I'm an old customer here, so these 2 guards know me. Then, the door slowly opened, and the 4 of them walked into the courtyard together. As soon as they walked in, they saw all kinds of exquisite weapons on the weapon racks on both sides, including swords, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, and forks. Walking into the courtyard, you can immediately see a group of warriors practicing martial arts. They are holding various weapons and waving them constantly. These people are inspecting the newly made weapons. If there is any discomfort in using them, they will go back to the furnace for remaking. This alone is something that many weapon craftsmen outside cannot do. At this time, a man in a red robe walked towards Zanshai Ayu. Isn't this Zanshai Ayu, the 3rd son of the Zan family? Is the family short of weapons recently? The middle-aged man came over with a kind smile on his face. Zanshai Ayu then smiled politely. Liang Danian, it's been a long time since we last met. How is your business recently? It's okay, but not very prosperous. Boss Liang is being modest again. You sell high-end goods, so you can't compare to those small shops in terms of prosperity. Liang Danian stroked his beard and smiled even more. That's true. Although my shop is quiet and few people come, one deal is worth a month's work for those shops outside. Just tell me, what do you want to see me for? Zanshai Ayu looked at Lu Chuan beside him and said, a friend of mine has a weapon that he wants to ask your swordsmith to appreciate. I wonder if there is any other swordsmith in the pavilion who has time now? Liang Danian frowned slightly, and after thinking for a moment, he said, there is a 5th grade swordsmith in our pavilion. He just finished making a batch of armor and is resting now. Why don't you go see him? He should have time. Please lead the way. I'm not familiar with this. Liang Danian nodded slightly. No problem. You are from the Zan family, and I must give you face. As soon as these words came out, Zanshai Ayu knew in his heart that he had taken a favor from the other party and would definitely return it in the future. But for Lu Chuan, he wouldn't care too much about this. So the 4 followed Liang Danian into the pavilion. Then, they met the 5th grade swordsmith in a single room on the 2nd floor. Chapter 650 Soul Breaking Sword. In the room, the swordsmith was wearing a plain grey robe, sitting cross-legged on the bed and practicing quietly. The room was very monotonous, and many sword-making drawings could be seen around. It was obvious that this person had put a lot of effort into his profession. After Liang Danian came in, he said, warning, stop practicing. Someone wants to trouble you to identify a weapon. The swordsmith slightly opened his eyes and turned his head to look at the 5 people who entered the room. Please bring the weapon here, he said without saying anything extra. Hearing this, Lu Chuan took down the bronze sword behind him. Liang Danian saw that he was always wearing a veil, and he couldn't help but become curious. How mysterious is this person's identity? Can't he reveal his true face? Then, Lu Chuan pulled the bronze sword out of the scabbard. Master, this is the weapon. Please take a closer look. Liang Danian saw the bronze sword in Lu Chuan's hand and his eyes widened instantly. You are here to make fun of us, right? This is obviously a broken sword. You actually brought it to our Divine Weapon Pavilion for identification. Are you kidding us? He shouted angrily. Zanshai Ayu saw this and hurriedly explained. Pavilion Master Liang, this sword is extraordinary. It is not an ordinary sword. We brought it for identification. Of course, there is something magical about this sword. Liang Danian snorted coldly. What else is there to identify? This is obviously a broken sword. Even an amateur can see it. You can show off such a broken sword. Do you think we are fools? Liang Danian felt humiliated. The swords made by the apprentices in his divine weapon pavilion are tens of thousands of times stronger than this broken bronze sword. How dare this man show off this sword and even ask a 5th grade swordsmith to identify it? It's really ridiculous. Liang Danian looked at Lu Chuan and became impatient. Please go back. This is clearly humiliating us. If Wan Ning looks at your broken sword for a second longer, it will be an insult to him. You should find someone else to identify it. Goodbye. Liang Danian was about to raise his hand to see him off, but Lu Chuan stood there motionless. Don't rush to make a final conclusion. You only saw the appearance of this sword, and you don't understand the core of this sword. What is there to understand? If I spend a long time studying a broken sword, I will be laughed at. Let's go quickly. I'm too lazy to see you off. Don't affect my business here. Leave here quickly. I actually need to ask a 5th grade swordsmith to identify this broken sword. It's a waste of energy, he said impatiently, and he had already determined that Lu Chuan was here to play with them. Seeing his attitude, Zhan Xianyu was immediately angry. Pavilion Master Liang, this is my friend. Is this how you treat my friend? Liang Danian looked at Zhan Xianyu. My attitude is bad. You were the first to play tricks on me. How dare you say that my attitude is bad? Zhan Xianyu, don't think I'm afraid of you. Although your Zhan family is one of the best martial arts families in Xianshu City, our Shenbing Pavilion is not inferior to yours at all, he said with full confidence. Zhan Xianyu certainly knew that it was not easy for their Zhan family to offend the Shenbing Pavilion, otherwise, their channels for buying equipment would become much narrower in the future. Pavilion Master Liang, since we can't talk about it, let's stop here. Let's go back and do whatever you want. After that, Zhan Xianyu took Lu Chuan out of the room, and the four of them walked downstairs together. Liang Danian, who was standing there, was very upset. He felt that he had just been tricked, and his face was somewhat lost. At this moment, he suddenly turned around and saw Wan Ning frantically flipping through an ancient book. What are you doing? Keep practicing. I'll let you know when there's an order. Wan Ning shook his head nervously. Pavilion Master, you shouldn't have sent that man away. I feel the sword in his hand is very special. Although the sword body is firmly covered with a layer of bronze, the hilt seems familiar to me. That is definitely not an ordinary thing, not an ordinary long sword. Perhaps I should have identified it just now. I remember where I saw it, but why can't I remember it? He continued to flip through the books, carefully looking up various ancient books. Take your time to look for it. What value can a broken bronze sword have that is worth looking through the books? After saying that, he left the room. At the same time, Lu Chuan and the others came downstairs and prepared to leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Gu Xiaosang said angrily, that guy is so arrogant. He doesn't take us seriously. It's okay that he doesn't know the goods, but he actually blames us and says that we are fooling him. That man is indeed a little arrogant. Ordinary people may think that a bronze sword is junk when they see it, but at least they won't be so rude. And he has promised us to identify it, but he regretted it halfway. He is too arrogant. Zhan Xianyu said helplessly, there is no way. This guy has seen countless magic weapons. He already sneers at ordinary fine swords, let alone this bronze sword that looks so shabby. Forget it, let's go back first and find other swordsmiths to take a look. Zhan Xianyu said helplessly. Just as they walked to the door, suddenly, a loud shout came out. I found it. I found it. Zhan Xianyu and his friends stopped, shrugged, and continued to walk out of the door. At this time, in the room, Wan Ning held up the ancient book in his hand, staring at the sword pattern drawn on it. Then, he began to try to recall the bronze sword he had just seen from Lu Chuan. The overall proportions were exactly the same, and the patterns on the hilt were almost the same. There was no doubt that the sword Lu Chuan had just held was exactly the one recorded in this ancient book. At this time, Liang Danian hurried back and looked at Wan Ning curiously. Master Wan, what did you find that made you yell here? I found it. The bronze sword that the man just brought out actually looks like this. Liang Danian hurried over and took a closer look. He saw a few big words. Kunlun Domain's top grade immortal weapon. Soul breaking sword. Soul breaking sword. Are you sure the sword that the man just brought out was this? Liang Danian asked solemnly, as if he felt that something was a little unusual. Yes, it's almost certain. Judging from the mysterious patterns on the hilt, it is almost a perfect match with this soul-breaking sword. If the abilities are the same, then it can be basically confirmed to be this sword. Pavilion Master, if we take back this magical weapon, the reputation of our divine weapon Pavilion will be completely famous throughout the world. Liang Danian stroked his chin and fell into deep thought. Let me visit Zhenshianayu and see if I can find out something indirectly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.